Good morning. Calling this Committee on Health and Homelessness for a hearing on Wednesday, January 31st, 2024, 8:30 a.m. We are here in conference room 329, and this is our first committee hearing for bills, actual bills members. It's so exciting. First up, we have House Bill 1966 relating to health care. This relates to providing coverage for various sexual and reproductive health care services, applying to coverage for health benefit plans under the Hawaii EUTF EU Employer Union Health Benefits Trust Fund. Members, we've received a lot of testimony, 33 in support, 14 in opposition, and 4 with comments. I'd like to first start with Commissioner Gordon Ito from the DCCA Insurance Division.
Good morning, Chair Baladi, Vice Chair Takenouchi, members of the committee. Gordon Ito testifying on behalf of DCCA Insurance Division. I'd just like to know, basically we'll stand our written testimony, but I would like to point out in terms of the testimony, in the 5 testimony we submitted for this morning's hearing, all of them we make a comment that any added benefit beyond basically what the ACA essential health benefit packages were might be construed and viewed as a new mandate. And any new by federal law under ACA, any new mandate, the state would be responsible for picking up the cost of any new mandate added to the health plan. And so that's just basically what our testimony. I'd also like to remind the committee, as we view many of the bills that are coming through, we have to be mindful of making sure that we do not go and step beyond the bounds of the risk exemption for prepaid, because we don't want our prepaid healthcare plan and law to be preempted and lose our prepaid healthcare law, which is, I believe it's 50 years old today or this year. So that's all I have. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ito. Just one comment. You reminding me that the prepaid healthcare plan is 50 years old reminds me of my birthday as well. So, and we have a whole generation of folks who don't understand what it's like without prepaid. Prepaid underscores our entire health industry system and makes us one of the strongest in the country. But I'll just leave that at that. We have Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii in support.
Good morning, Michael Galoyu Jr. on this behalf of the Stonewall Caucus. Happy New Year. We stand in full support of this bill. We think it is the right move, what we need to do to protect everybody, and we believe it strengthens our prepaid healthcare law by ensuring that these needed coverages are mandated by your insurance coverage to help everyone. So we encourage you to pass this bill. Mahalo.
Thank you. Pride at Work Hawaii in support. Save Medicaid Hawaii in support. Doris Siegel Matsunaga. Hawaii State Democratic Women's Caucus in support. AAUW in support. We have comments from Hawaii Association of Health Plans. Is there anyone here from the health plans? In support, ACOG Hawaii section. We have comments from HMSA.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Don Carrizo on behalf of HMSA. We stand on our written testimony providing comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have comments from Kaiser Permanente. In person or by Zoom? Okay, we have by Zoom Planned Parenthood Alliance Advocates.
Good morning. Planned Parenthood Alliance Advocates Hawaii strongly supports HB 1966, a critical women's package bill which fortifies ACA health benefits, safeguarding, protecting coverage of critical cost-saving preventative services and equitable access to abortion care. The 2023 auditor's report verified there will be little to no financial impact of RIA, and that covering the no-cost sharing provisions will be immaterial and insignificant to insurers' budgets. While covering these costs will likely have little impact on insurers, RIA's no-cost sharing provisions could be life-changing to some patients who struggle with even the smallest copay amounts. All people in Hawaii, regardless of income type or insurance, should have access to the full range of preventative sexual and reproductive health care services at no cost. Thank you for your consideration and support of this important bill.
Thank you, Ms. Wilbur. We have in support Rainbow Family 808. We have a number of individuals in support and in opposition. Members, I apologize, I should have started this to explain this by saying that the protocol for this committee is that we will typically defer decision-making until 11:30 on all bills. We'd like to go through the testimony. I'd like to hear from the groups and then open it up, of course, to any individuals, whether here or via Zoom. And then we'll open up with questions to all presenters, testifiers. So are there any individuals here in the room who would like to testify? Seeing none, are there any individuals on Zoom who would like to testify on House Bill 1966? Seeing none, okay, members, any questions? Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Chair. Question for HMSA, please. Thank you. Your testimony says, point 1, in the section relating to contraceptive supplies on page 20, lines 12 through 16, it is unclear how any health insurance plan would be able to offer coverage for a partner of the insured. Does this bill basically say that they have to give coverage to the partner of the
The language,
insured?
yeah, we're just unclear because again, as health plans, our coverage is for the member.
For the individual?
For the individual. So.
Okay. And then the second point seems to be a conflict with federal law. Is that correct?
Kind of to the point that insurance commissioner made, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any members, any other questions? Representative Kobayashi.
For Gordon Ito. Who makes the actual decision as to whether this might be preempted by the feds?
Well, in terms of the defrayment, the federal government, HHS, will be the one that makes the decision as to whether it's a new mandate beyond the essential health benefit packages. And I'd just like to note that with respect to defrayment, for a number of years since ACA was passed and the actual implementation of ACA went into effect, I think, in 2014, there wasn't really any attempt by HHS to look at the issue of defrayment. However, under the prior administration, they had started the process of asking states about, what new mandates or benefits were added. So there was that start of that process in looking at any potential new mandates beyond the EHB and possible defrayment under the prior administration. So I'd just like to note that.
So actually, we don't know about whether that phrase, in addition to essential health benefits, kicks in with this bill.
At this time, I mean, we can't be certain because again, federal government will make that determination if they go down that process.
Thank you.
Follow up on that question. Commissioner Ito, you need to stay there. Any further questions? This may be out of your jurisdiction, and certainly if this bill moves forward, we're going to need more attorneys' eyes on this. Is there a sense? Is there any knowledge if the process that Representative Kobayashi has mentioned been executed with any of the states with respect to their plans?
I believe, again, under the prior administration, in terms of defrayment, there were some states that were contacted and to provide a list of additional benefits that were added, potentially added. So that process had actually started under the prior administration.
Would that inquiry have come to you or to the
letter, but as to whether they were the initial point of contact, I'm not sure.
Okay. Can you further? Sorry. Any other questions, members? Okay, no. You stay there, please. I'm very concerned. Are you aware of anything of the status of Braidwood Management versus Becerra?
No, sorry, I'm not.
Okay. Do you know if okay. Hold that thought. Can you explain in the bill, there's a reference at pages 6 and 7, referencing high deductible health plans and health savings accounts. Can you explain a little bit about what you think that might be about and how high deductible health plans and health savings accounts operate in our state in terms of the prevalence with which they provide health insurance to the population in our state? Because really, high deductible health plans they're not a large market because of the fact that we have prepaid. So can you shed a little bit of light about that part of our health insurance ecosystem?
So as to the availability of actually a high deductible plan, I don't know how prevalent or how much there is. But as you noted, the Prepaid Healthcare Act and the Prevalent Plan A and Prevalent Plan B, I mean, the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations in the Prepaid Healthcare Council is the one that reviews the benefit packages in the Prevalent Plan. And any health plan or that wants to make amendments to their plan have to submit the new plan or proposed plan to Prepaid Healthcare Council for review and approval to make sure that, and has to get the approval from the Prepaid Council to say it's within the parameters of what the prevalent plan standard is. So that's really the process. So with respect to high deductibles, because deductibles is part of the consideration of the prevalent plan, I believe if it's a high deductible plan, it might not meet the standards of Prevalent Plan A. Maybe Prevalent Plan B, but I'm not the expert on that. Department of Labor probably could answer that question better. With reference to that high deductible plan, there's the interface in terms of that, I won't say savings account, but where you can set aside money to pay for the deductible. There might be law or provisions within the federal law that defines what a high deductible plan and what the level is. And so if I think that the concern or comment in terms of this proposed bill, if you pay there's no cost share, then it might impact the deductible level and whether that qualifies for the high deductible plan requirements. It meets the high deductible but that I believe is under the federal law.
And that would, okay. What is the interplay between high deductible health care plans that are offered to individuals, right? Because there's a situation sometimes when employees come from out of state, and we've seen this. I've received constituent communications about this, and their request that they want more options with high deductible plans, right? What is that kind of product when someone comes in? What is the interplay between that kind of product being offered to a person who's employed here in Hawaii and then the insurance mandates under prepaid health care?
Well,
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. But again, I'm not the expert in terms of the prepaid law and the interplay. And in terms of what you're describing in large employers that send employees into Hawaii, I'm not sure in terms of how that interplay is and what exceptions some of the corporations might have with respect to prepaid. So I think labor is probably the better department to ask that question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Does the Prepaid Healthcare Council come under your division or
No,
labor's?
it's all Department of Labor in
Department of
industrial
Labor.
relation.
Okay.
Our jurisdiction is really looking at health plans, and we do rate review. But when I say health plans, we're not the one that defines the benefits. It's really Department of Labor, Industrial, the Prepaid Health Care Council that looks at the prepaid benefits and making sure it's within the confines of the prepaid law, the Prevalent Plan A and the B standards.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. You're off the hot seat. Any other questions, members? May I have the representative from Planned Parenthood? If she's still there. Okay. Members, the question I would have asked, because there is reference to other states having adopted what is basically some attempt to ensure and shore up against potential changes to the ACA, is that there are references to other states here, and I would like us to better understand. And the question would have been if these other states, such as, I believe, Washington, Oregon, Illinois, and California have similar prepaid healthcare laws like us, and if analysis was done on whether this kind of, really good national legislation, but really fits into other jurisdictions, would fit into our insurance marketplace. So if this bill moves forward, we'll ask those questions. Certainly the issues raised by Commissioner Ito with respect to this bill also raises questions for this committee, and we'll take a closer look at that. Again, members, any other questions for anyone here? And again, we'll defer decision-making until 11:30 on all of these measures on the 8:30 a.m. agenda. Moving on to House Bill 1722, members, this is a measure prohibiting the imposition of cost-sharing requirements for certain diagnostic and supplemental breast examinations. We have received 6 testimonies in support, 0 in opposition, 3 comments, and we have additional late testimony in support. First up, we have Commissioner Ito, DCCA Insurance Division, comments.
As I mentioned in the first bill, we stand on a written testimony. Our comments is in terms, with respect to the interplay of the ACA and additional mandated or potential mandated benefits.
Thank you. In support, Hawaii Radiological Society. In support, American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network.
Good morning. Chair Bellotti, Vice Chair Takenouchi, and committee members. Cynthia Al on behalf of the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, thank you for the opportunity to support House Bill 1722. The American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network is the non-profit, nonpartisan advocacy affiliate of the American Cancer Society, and we advocate for public policies that reduce death and suffering from cancer. In Hawaii, breast cancer is the most common cancer among women and the second leading cause of cancer death. If there are no barriers of cost sharing, there will be increased cancer screenings. Delayed follow-up is often associated with later stage disease diagnoses. And on behalf of our constituents, many of whom have been personally affected by cancer and breast cancer, we urge your support on this important bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Testimony in support with comments from Kaiser Permanente.
Chair, we'll stand on our written testimony.
Okay. We have comments in person from HMSA. We have testimony in support from Susan G. Komen, Lauren Marquette via Zoom.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. My name is Lauren Marquette. I'm the Senior Regional Manager for State Policy and Advocacy at Susan G. Komen. I'm with you today because this is a very critical piece of legislation. HB 1722 is the next step that aims to eliminate financial barriers to earlier breast care detection by ensuring that everyone has equitable access to diagnostic and supplemental breast imaging. In 2024 alone, 1,440 people in Hawaii will be diagnosed with breast cancer, and an estimated 180 will die from the disease. The patient costs, even with insurance, can be very high. We'll see in the hundreds for diagnostic mammograms and breast ultrasounds, and in the thousands for breast MRIs. An estimated 12% of women screened will require follow-up diagnostic imaging. Patients do have to fit a specific guidelines to receive the diagnostic test, though. Cancer is much deadlier and much more costly, up to 5 times more expensive to treat once it spreads beyond the breast to other parts of the body like the lungs, the bones, the brain. When a patient can't afford their tests, they skip them. At Susan G. Komen, we hear every day of the effects that a later breast cancer stage diagnosis does to those battling the disease. This bill will ensure the access to these life-saving tests. This bill will help someone like a woman who we recently met who had an $800 copay for a diagnostic mammogram that she couldn't pay. She was recently divorced, and the $80 was far too much for her to spend. She waited 6 months, and then because of the physical pain she felt, went and got a payday loan to pay for it. Her cancer had already spread. She lost her breast and had to do chemo and radiation, all for the sake of $80. We asked you to vote in favor of HB 1722 because neither a woman's income nor zip code should determine whether she lives or dies. So please help us make Hawaii the 21st state to pass this life-saving legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Marquette, if you can be sure to stay on, because I'm going to have questions for you following this. We have testifiers, individuals in support. Anyone here in the room would like to testify? Anyone on Zoom would like to testify? Seeing none, members, questions? Ms. Marquette, please stay there, but I would like Commissioner Ito first. Commissioner Ito, I know you might not be the appropriate person, and it's very likely that this referral is not the complete referral we should have, because I'm probably going to ask you a question that you may not be able to answer. But you're the only one here, so you're on the hot spot. With respect to some of these services, diagnostic breast exams, supplemental breast exams, are you aware if these fall within the definitions of the EHBs under the Affordable Care Act?
Well, I know with respect to ACA, the Affordable Care Act, I mean, they're really into preventive services, but specifically as to whether these provisions fall within it, we would have to take a look, but we can take a look and get back to you.
Okay, and then in your testimony, you also say that reminding us about the sunrise analysis that we're required to do.
Yes, I mean, the auditor.
If we were to cross-reference this with the auditor's analysis that was done in November 2023, broadly saying study of proposed mandatory health insurance coverage for various sexual and reproductive health care services, if this particular very limited services that this bill is covered by was covered in this report, would that then satisfy the sunrise analysis potentially?
If it was covered within this, I think it would fall within and meet the requirement.
Okay, so we need to just cross-check that and make sure that that happened. All right, I think that's it. Again, so the question about, would the Prepaid Healthcare Council be the entity that would be looking at some of these issues of whether this particular service already exists in the prevalent prepaid plan that governs in our jurisdiction?
Yeah.
So we would need to check with them.
The prepaid, whether it's a covered benefit under the prepaid health care plans. The prepaid council, that's their purview.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Marquette, question for you. I understand you are the regional manager of the Susan G. Komen. In your analysis of this bill, have you folks done any analysis on the intersection and interplay between prepaid healthcare, ERISA, and the ACA?
Excuse me. I know our federal folks have looked into that. I'm not sure. I don't have a good answer for you, but I can look into that and get back to you. But I know that, the essential health benefits, like the commissioner was talking about, would include screening, mammography that is now covered. And then what we're asking for is the other diagnostic services after that.
Okay, I think it's really important. And actually, I'm going to say this to any kind of national groups that are coming in and looking at our laws. There needs to be analysis done on the ERISA preemption that our state currently enjoys. And we're the only state that has this because we passed our Prepaid Health Care Act far in advance of the passage of the Affordable Care Act. This is a very serious question for our state. And really, the Prepaid Health Care Act undergirds our system of insurance. And that's what has ensured our residents here to have some of the best affordable health care in the nation. Thank you. I really appreciate this partnership. I think having all eyes on this and having people understand the impact of the ERISA preemption is really important as we move forward, and also in the context of any of the federal litigation that's going on, which I know your teams are probably watching very, very, very carefully. Thank you, Ms. Marquette. Members, any other questions? Seeing none, moving on to House Bill 1624. This is for coverage for standard fertility preservation services. Comments, Commissioner Ito. And as he's making his way up there, we have 12 in support, 0 in opposition, 4 comments, and we have late testimony coming in from various individuals. Go ahead, Commissioner
We
Ito.
stand on a written testimony. Basically, it's the two folds that I already talked about. One is the issue in terms of defrayment for new mandates, as well as maybe a potential need for an auditor study. I'll be glad to answer. I shouldn't say any question, but anyway, I'll be available to answer questions. And before I leave, if I could request some personal privilege in terms of the last 2 bills on the agenda, if we could move that up, because we have a retirement party for 2 of our employees scheduled pretty soon, and I would like to be there to wish them well. Thank you.
Because it's you, Commissioner, and you asked with personal privilege, yes, we will move those up. And I think we will move through them quickly for all of the people who are here. Next up, we have testimony and support from the Hawaii Society of Clinical Oncology and Association for Clinical Oncology. Testimony and support from Fertility Institute of Hawaii. Testimony and support from American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network.
Thank you, Chair. We support House Bill 1624. We stand on our written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments? Hawaii Association of Health Plans. Comments in person, HMSA. Comments, Kaiser Permanente.
Morning, Chair. We'll stand on our written testimony offering comments and questions.
Support from ACOG Hawaii section. Testimony and support Alliance for Fertility Preservation. We have testimony and support that came in late from Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Okay. Any testifiers here in support individuals or in opposition? Any testifiers via Zoom? Seeing none. Members, any questions? Commissioner, sorry. My understanding is that there was a sunrise analysis done on this.
Okay.
Was there a sunrise analysis done on this?
I'll defer
Kaiser Permanente, or from the plans?
Was it?
There was
Okay.
last year, 2023.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, we confirm it was done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Members, any other questions? Nope. Okay. Moving on to, we're going to jump ahead, members, to House Bill 2223 at the end of the agenda relating to insurance. This is with respect to coverage for biomarker testing. Commissioner, you're making me have to jump all the way to the end. Okay, testimony first from Commissioner Ito. Okay. Testimony from University of Hawaii. We have testimony in support from the Michael J. Fox Foundation, in support from ALS Association, in support from Lupus and Allied Disease Association, Inc., testimony in support from International Cancer Advocacy Network, support from National Organization for Rare Disorders, in-person support American Cancer Society.
Chair Belatti, Vice Chair Takenouchi, and committee members, Cynthia Al on behalf of the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, thank you for the opportunity to support House Bill 2223 and offer amendments. Biomarker testing will help Hawaii patients to get the right treatment at the right time. Biomarker testing is analysis of a patient's tissue, blood, or other biospecimen for the presence of a biomarker that may impact treatment decisions. Biomarker testing is an important step for assessing precision medicine, including targeted therapies that can lead to improved survivorship and better quality of life for cancer patients. Nearly 60% of all cancer drugs approved in the last 5 years require or recommend biomarker testing before use. The bill sets parameters for both circumstances when testing may be appropriate and the evidence that must be met, only for tests that will benefit patients when medically appropriate. To qualify for biomarker testing coverage under this bill, there must be robust medical and scientific evidence to demonstrate the effectiveness of the testing. In Hawaii, both private insurers and Medicaid already are covering much of the testing. ACS CAN recommends the committee to amend the bill and consider including Medicaid coverage. Our written testimony has suggested language to add 2 sections to an HD1. Similar legislation aligning coverage of biomarker testing across private and public insurance plans, including Medicaid, have been enacted in 13 states and is currently being heard in 12 others. Biomarkers testing, as you can see by the other testimonies that have been submitted, that they are targeted therapies for other diseases that are not cancer-related. Timely access to guideline-indicated comprehensive biomarker testing will enable more patients to access the most effective treatments for their disease and can achieve the triple aim of healthcare. On behalf of our constituents, many of whom have been personally affected by cancer, we urge your support on this important bill. And there has not been a sunrise analysis on this. We hope that the introduction of this bill with the amendment to include the Medicaid be included so that the auditor can take a look at the cost for this. And we will definitely, hearing the other testimonies earlier, work with our national organization to make sure that we look at prepaid health and ERISA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have testimony comments from Kaiser Permanente.
Morning, Chair. We'll stand on our written testimony and offer, I guess, an amendment to along the lines of the medical necessity.
Thank you. Comments from HMSA in person. Okay, we have comments in support from Alliance for Patient Access. We have comments in support from American Lung Association in Hawaii via Zoom. Mr. Pedro Haro. Okay, we'll come back. Testimony in support from Biotechnology Innovation Organization. Are there any testifiers here in the room who would like to testify? Any testifiers via Zoom who would like to testify? Mr. Haro, not present still, okay. Members, any questions? Representative Kobayashi.
For American Cancer Society, I don't understand your testimony. You talk about biomarker tests ranging from $78 to $224. And then you say patient can be on the hook for hundreds, even thousands of dollars.
Right. So we do, in our testimony that we provided, we actually have a fact sheet on the costs and cost savings, so you can refer to that. But basically, if they have insurance coverage, they have to, it's less. But if biomarkers isn't insured, but that specific test isn't insured by the insurance, it can cost a lot more than what insurance has, I guess, negotiated with the pharmaceutical company, if that makes sense.
No. Are these biomarker tests specific to disease entities?
Yes. So there have been a lot of research that has been done specifically for biomarker testing for various diseases. So it's not like one biomarker test can test for a variety of it. It's very specific research. And so there's different indicators that they have found, research has found, where certain therapies work better for whatever illness it is that they might have, or mutation of the gene that they might have, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, Commissioner Ito. Any other questions? I have a question, Commissioner Ito. I think as part of our general conversation about all of these increased mandates, having heard from this testimony that there are other states that have passed this kind of insurance mandates, it would seem to me that this is the very kind of thing that may have states run afoul of potential
The defrayment.
testing of the
Okay, so-
defrayment and the definition and what goes into essential health benefits. So as part of, do you know anything about this area of the law and insurance coverage?
With respect to the issue on defrayment or?
Defrayment and especially for biomarker testing, or is it too specific? It's too specific of a medical service that you wouldn't know it.
I'm not aware of what states, I mean, we can try to get the information of what states were requested on the issue of defrayment and added benefits and what kind of benefits they were looking at. I mean, we could try to research that. But specifically on biomarker testing and as to whether they were asked a question about it, I'm not aware of that.
Are you, is Hawaii a part of any kind of national membership of insurance commissioners that this question could be posed to?
Yeah, I mean, we're a member of the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. All states and territories are members of that, the NAIC. And we could pose that. There is a specific health committee, and they might know the answer to that question. So we'll ask the health committee.
Thank you for adding this to your homework, Commissioner. All right, members, any other questions? Seeing none. Okay, members, moving to House Bill 2394 relating to health insurance, and this was with respect to step therapy for cancer treatments. We have fewer testimonies, but still very important. We have 1 in support and 4 comments. Commissioner, comments? Comments from Hawaii Association of Health Plans? Testimony in support, testimony with comments from HMSA? All right, we have comments from Kaiser Permanente.
Stand on our testimony with some question amendments.
Testimony in support from 1 individual, Cards Pintor. We've had additional testimony in support come in late from Stephanie Sakamoto and Mary Schmidtke. Any testifiers in the room? Any testifiers via Zoom? Seeing none, members, any questions? I have a question for Commissioner Ito. Sorry, you're the only one here. I hope the word goes out. Please be in person because you have questions.
Yeah, especially maybe make a personal plea and say, please help me.
I think that's a call out to Department of Labor, potentially Attorney General's office, but certainly it's a pleasure to have you, Commissioner, here. Commissioner, this is a policy that's looking at trying to provide coverage for step therapy, investigational new drugs. As I look at this, are you aware of the right to try bills that also attempts to try to get access to this type of care, but not through the insurance mandates?
No, sorry.
Okay.
We can look at it.
Okay,
Yeah,
another
sorry.
homework. Please look at that because
Okay.
what I'm worried about again is the concerns that you raise. And then if there's maybe other policy tools in which we can address what this bill is attempting to do. Because this is in that space of investigational drugs. I'm going to have to ask, since there's no one else here, someone from HMSA or Kaiser or the health plans? Ms. Karisu, you're on the hot spot. I really appreciate the intent of this bill and what it's trying to do. but this may not be the right tool, and I don't know. But can you speak to either this as a policy option or more of those right to try bills, which opens up but does not put it in the insurance mandates? And I know you might not be able to answer this question, but if you could take an initial response to what would be the better policy approach via insurance mandates or by opening up the process to allow folks to do investigational, to use and access investigational drugs.
Not prepared to answer that question, but we can definitely take a look.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the same. I mean, obviously, I think the big crux is right. Why we're requesting the investigation would be excluded is they're not approved by the FDA, so they're, I mean, considered experimental. But we'll look. I mean, as far as whether you would amend the insurance code to put something like that or right to try, I think that's premature. We'll take that back to our folks though, and we'll get back to you. I don't know before 11:30, but at least within the next couple of days.
Okay, well, this is certainly at the beginning, and this is why we have triple referrals, and this is why we have hearings until May.
Yes.
That's why this session is until May. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
My apologies, members. I want to clarify the record. The bills that we were just looking at were House Bill 2194. And thank you to our staff for making sure we stay on track. Right, members, any other questions on this set of the bills? All right, returning to our, back to our agenda and moving, thank you, Commissioner. Moving to House Bill 2436, relating to medical care for minors. Members, we have had much testimony on this, 29 in support, 17 in opposition. And we've also had late testimony come in from various individuals. First up, testimony in support, Department of Health.
Department of Health stands on our written testimony in support of the here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Testimony in support via Zoom, Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii.
Good morning again. Michael Galoyu Jr. on behalf of the Stonewall Caucus, the Democratic Party of Hawaii. We stand in strong support of this legislation. I encourage anybody who thinks that we don't need this bill to go visit or make an appointment to go see RISE, the residential youth outreach in Waikiki, and meet the youth that have been thrown out of their homes for being sexually active. So youth should be able to receive this much needed access health care without having to involve their parents and being thrown out of their homes for being sexually active. So we encourage you to pass this bill and that we protect our keiki, because as everybody keeps on saying, they're our future, so they should have access to health care. Mahalo.
Thank you, Mr. Goloyu. We have testimony in support from Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center, Executive Director Heather Lusk via Zoom. Okay, we have testimony in support from Kumukahi Health and Wellness. Support from Rainbow Family 808. Members, rest of the testimony comes from individuals. Anyone in the room to testify? Anyone on Zoom here to testify? Members, any questions? Representative Garcia, go ahead.
Is anyone from the AG's office here? I'm assuming not. If not, I guess there's no answer, but I have concerns, Chair, with the legalities of this, giving minors the right to make medical decisions. And if something goes wrong, who would be held liable for those kinds of things? So that's just my concern. If you're over 18, it's one thing, but for a minor, it's completely different. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Garcia. We'll make sure that that question does get forwarded in some form or fashion to the AG's office. I think hopefully those agencies who are watching this understand that the Health Committee is very inquisitive.
It's early on.
They will
Thank
come
you.
forward. All right, thank you. And members, any other questions? All right, seeing none, moving to House Bill 2079 relating to gender affirming healthcare. We have numerous testimony in support, 29 in support, 40 in opposition, 6 comments. And we have late testimony members being provided to you that includes a combination of individual and organizational testimony. First up, in person, we have DCCA, Rochelle Araki.
Good morning, Chair Bellotti, members of the committee. My name is Rochelle Araki, Executive Officer for the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. We stand on our written testimony in support. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Okay, testimony with comments from Office of Information Practices. Testimony in support, Hawaii State Center for Nursing. Comments from Hawaii Medical Board here in person.
Board will stand on its written testimony providing comments.
Okay, thank you. Testimony from Board of Nursing. Thank you. We have testimony from the Board of Psychology. Comments.
Good morning, Chair. This is Christopher Fernandez, Executive Officer for the Board of Psychology. The board will be discussing this matter at its earliest opportunity on a properly noticed agenda.
Okay, thank you.
And we stand on our comments.
Thank you. Hawaii County Council, Councilmember Jen Kawigata in support. Rainbow Family 808 in support. Democratic Party of Hawaii Legislative Committee in support via Zoom. Okay, other testifiers in support organizations include Pride at Work Hawaii, Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center, Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party, Crystal Joy Beal of Queer Doc via Zoom. Is Crystal Joy Beal here via Zoom? Nope. Okay, in person, HMSA comments? Thank you. We have testimony and support from Physicians for Reproductive Health and testimony and support from ATA Health. We have testimony comments from Kaiser Permanente.
Chair, Vice Chair Jonathan Ching for Kaiser Permanente. I apologize for the late testimony. We have submitted written comments and requesting an amendment. Certainly support the intent of this bill. Our amendment, what it really does goes to allowing, I think what we think is that the prohibited disclosures may be a little broader. And so what we're asking for is an amendment to clarify that when there's health systems talking to each other, so it's not disclosing to, another state that would be asking, or trying to reach in to, prosecute a provider. Really what this is what our amendment would do is clearly clarify that health systems, when they're talking to other health systems, like health information exchanges, that would be permitted. So we would like to have the committee consider that amendment if this bill moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ching. Okay, members, we have numerous individuals in support and in opposition. Any members in the hearing room who'd like to testify? Please come up. And any others? If you could state your name, and then we can find your testimony if it's been submitted. Go ahead.
Sure thing. Thank you very much, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Please excuse my nervousness. This being in the public spotlight is not my thing, but I'm doing my best. I will stay if anyone has questions for me afterwards. And I support this measure first and foremost. I support this. This really shows the nation.
I'm sorry, can you need to, for the record, state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Brianna Zoe.
Go ahead.
And I totally support this measure. It really shows the nation and folks that Hawaii is supporting gender affirming healthcare, whether it be making more accessible gender affirming medications via telehealth, or protecting our families if families are supporting their children to get the care that they need. Those parents shouldn't be potentially threatened, penalized, whatever the word I'm looking for is, just for allowing their kids to get the care that they need. So this bill is great. What I really wanted to spend a minute talking to you folks with is I have offered amendments in my testimony, and I really want to build on the current bill, which is really focused on the spirit of improving gender affirming healthcare access here in the state of Hawaii. My amendments are, I believe, in line with that spirit. And my amendments really are designed to help further gender affirming access in the state of Hawaii with respect to health insurance. My amendments are based specifically on real world, current, present day, January 2024 challenges that people like me, I'm non-binary, that people like me have in the state of Hawaii when it comes to accessing gender affirming healthcare coverage through our insurance carriers. So the amendments I have really do work on improving some challenges with the state's current Gender Affirming Treatment Act, which we passed in 2022. Since we passed that act, we've given major insurance companies almost 2 years to help get up to speed, but they continue to seem to be very resistant to supporting the ability of folks to get the healthcare coverage that they need. Without healthcare coverage through insurance, a lot of people like me, we just can't afford the healthcare that we need. We go bankrupt, we take out second mortgages, I've gone without food because I've had to choose, do I eat or do I spend money on the healthcare that I need? We make a ton of very difficult decisions when we can't get coverage for healthcare. So I hope you can consider my amendments. Like you mentioned, Chair, these sessions do go through May, so I would very much appreciate it if my amendments could be considered. And we will have ample time in further hearings and committees to, discuss the amendments. These amendments are things that we tried to introduce with the 2022 healthcare bill, which a major health insurance company, HMSA, lobbied to remove. And now we're feeling the repercussions of that lobbying activities from 2022. So I'm really trying to put some of those protections back into the current bill. Again, in the spirit of improving gender affirming healthcare. Last thing I'd like to say is I do not believe any of the amendments I've put in here would be construed as healthcare mandates or mandates, triggering sunrise, audit reports, and so forth. I do not believe that would come into play with my amendments. So thank you all very much for letting me testify, considering my amendments, and just thank you for having this hearing and hearing this bill, because gender affirming healthcare is a huge thing for me and a lot of people around the nation. So many states are just destroying and making people's lives miserable, restricting gender affirming healthcare access, penalizing families. So I do love seeing Hawaii at least trying to do better here, hearing these arguments, trying to make sure we don't fall into the other side, which is making things much worse for people. So thank you. If anyone has any questions for me, I will stick around, but I appreciate you.
Thank you, Ms. Zoe. Any other testifiers like to testify in the room? Any testifiers via Zoom? First up is... Okay. Please, if we could have the representative from the Democratic Party of Hawaii, Stonewall Caucus, I believe, or Legislative Committee.
Thank you, Chair Belatti. Aloha, Vice Chair Takanuchi, and esteemed members of the committee. My name is Abby Simmons. I'm the co-chair of the Legislative Committee of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, and I'm testifying on behalf of the party in strong support of this bill, HB 2079. So protecting the civil and human rights of our LGBTQ community is one of our party's top 10 legislative priorities of this session. Every major medical association and leading world health authority supports transgender healthcare as safe and life-saving. Gender-affirming care, as well as reproductive rights, are under assault across dozens of states on the continent. Last session, we passed SB 1 to protect reproductive rights. This bill is similar in spirit and will provide significant legal and civil protections that will shield healthcare providers and their patients from frivolous overreach by hostile out-of-state agencies. Overreach that equals persecution by prosecution. Let's make no mistake, the threat is real. It has been demonstrated by recent use of the Texas AG's subpoenas of healthcare providers in Seattle and Georgia. Subpoenas that intend to criminally charge providers and patients. It sounds very familiar to the ongoing attacks on reproductive rights. We believe in protecting Hawaii families from having their children removed by out-of-state agencies when either parent is either receiving gender-affirming care or providing access to gender-affirming care for their child. We believe in basic human rights. We believe in upholding the dignity of the members of the LGBTQ+ community. And as such, we strongly urge you to support HB 2079 with the amendments outlined in our written testimony. Mahalo nui lua for your time and consideration.
Thank you. We have another testifier in support via Zoom.
Good afternoon. Good morning still. Michael Goya Jr. still on behalf of the Stonewall Caucus. We just want to go on verbal support of strong support for this bill. We do want to point out that Florida this week has continued their war against the transgender community. They are now making it illegal to change your gender on your driver's licenses, and to do so will get you jailed. I would say, well, how farther could they go? And I don't want to know, because they take that as a challenge. They are bringing their war to our shores, and we need to protect our residents and those that come to Hawaii to seek gender affirming care, and that is what this bill does. In the sense of aloha, to honor our residents as well as everybody, that this bill does need to pass. So we encourage you to pass it. Mahalo.
Thank you, Mr. Goli. Any other testifiers via Zoom? Seeing none and no other testifiers in the room, any questions, members? Sure. Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Chair. Question for Kaiser Permanente. Looking through your testimony, I guess the issue that was brought up was the term communication in Section 3. Could you briefly summarize the issue that you guys have with that? The disclosures prohibited with medical providers talking to other providers.
Yeah, so oftentimes health systems are communicating with each other, but that communication is protected under the HIPAA, which was passed by Congress in 1996. The way that I would say our HIPAA attorneys have seen this language, we think that it's, and it's from Act 2, right? I think a lot of this language is from Act 2, which the legislature passed last year. We think it's a little broader, and so all we're asking for is to ensure, within the spirit of what was passed in Act 2, to ensure that there's not, that health systems or healthcare providers are not disclosing that to outside the confines of HIPAA, but allow still health information exchanges to be able to move that information, right? But all of those systems are still subject to HIPAA protections, right? To protect patients and any other disclosures. I'm not sure that answers your question. We can get you more clarity if you need.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, members, any other questions? Seeing none, moving on to House Bill 2003, last bill on this agenda relating to menstrual products. We have 47 testimonies in support, 1 in opposition. Additional late support members are being handed out to you. That includes testimony from a combination of individuals and organizations. First up, we have judiciary in support. Testimony in support from Department of Attorney, Accounting, and General Services in person. Thank you. Testimony in support, Hawaii State Public Library System. All of these groups are in support. Kauai County Council, Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center, Ma'i Movement via Zoom. Do we have a representative, Ms. Nikki Ann Yee?
Aloha, Chair Bellotti, Vice Chair Takinouchi, and committee members. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify. I'm Nikki Ann Yee, co-founder of Ma'i Movement. I stand in strong support of this bill. I'm here year after year because period poverty and menstrual equity is a real issue for many girls, women, and menstruators in our islands. I've been told that this isn't a real issue like housing or food insecurity, but our local studies and our research nationwide and globally have proven that it is. Some may ask, what does putting pads in state buildings mean? And I want to share something with you. Recently, a volunteer reached out and left this comment. Ma'i Movement kokua me so much when I was homeless. Mahalo keakua, I'm in a point in my life where I'm writing this from my home. It's my turn to kokua ma'i movement. A pad means security, dignity, and a chance to fully live. I've often said that pads should be treated like a basic necessity, like toilet paper and paper towels. And it is. But pads also mean you get to stay and you get to be. It's a privilege if you've never had the overwhelming dread when you realize you don't have a period product and you're at work or school, or you need to leave your house, but now you can't. But this privilege doesn't carry an exorbitant cost. Our state facilities offer a safety net to many vulnerable residents and employs many. Last year, the National Foundation for Women Legislators donated $1,000 in period products, and we donated 60 dispensers to our state libraries. At 6 courthouses throughout the state, we also donated about 10,000 products and 25 dispensers. This happened over the course of about 7 months, and in that time, we haven't heard of vandalism, overuse, or plumbing issues. Instead, it's been a welcome addition to the community. So I ask that you support and pass this bill. Mahalo.
Thank you, Ms. Yee. We have testimony in support from HMSA here in person. Members, other groups that have provided testimony in support include the Hawaii Women's Coalition, Period, Breastfeeding Hawaii, ACOG Hawaii Section, Planned Parenthood Alliance Advocates, as well as University of Hawaii, an individual from the University of Hawaii. And that's all the organizations we have. Members, many individual testimonies in support. Any testifiers here in the building? Come on up.
I'm standing on behalf of Jane Chiprotoldis. I'm an intern. My name's Savannah Peskin. We submitted our testimony. I'm on behalf of the Hawaii State Council of Developmental Disabilities. We're in strong support of HB 2003. We just want to emphasize that our individuals, they only receive $50 when they're inside of long-term care homes. This is for any kind of personal expenditures. These long-term care homes, they only provide diapers to our women, which not all women prefer to wear a diaper when they're menstruating. And so we think it's really important that our women are able to use their personal allowance for things other than, things that they would actually like to wear when they're menstruating. These are essential hygiene products that they should be provided. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Can you be sure, I don't know that we have the testimony from your division, so can you make sure that gets submitted to our staff?
Yeah, absolutely.
We will accept it. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you for joining us. Any other testifiers in the room? Any other testifiers via Zoom? Seeing none. Members, any questions? All right.
I'm on Zoom, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, so aloha, Chair Bellotti, Vice Chair Takanuchi, and committee members. My name is Christine, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm here to support Bill HB 2003, which will require the Department of Accounting and General Services to provide menstrual products at no cost in each covered public building. As a graduate student here at the UH Manoa, I have struggled with affording and obtaining the necessary menstrual products during my cycle, where I have actually used toilet paper as an alternative. This struggle has led me to actively advocate for menstrual equity and fight period poverty. In August 2022, I won a $500 grant from the PAD project, and that allowed me to give 2,376 menstrual pads to distribute across the East-West Center residence halls. While it's helpful, I think we could do more to address the issue of period poverty. That's why I'm in full support of Bill HB 2003. The availability of menstrual products in public buildings would help those who cannot afford to purchase them regularly and provide options for those who need different products for their body and flow. During the fall of 2022, I've hosted 2 film nights on period poverty and had discussions with students here at the university who shared their struggles with affording menstrual products. Many students reported that they often put menstrual products last on their priority list so they can afford food and pay their rent. which has been difficult with the recent inflation. They even skip class sometimes when they have their menstrual period, and we think that's unacceptable. Access to menstrual products is a basic need for all menstruating people and should not impact essential activities of our daily lives. Furthermore, homeless individuals cannot afford these products and have to resort to unsanitary options such as toilet paper or even no options. The lack of access to menstrual products can lead to health risks, so having these products accessible would protect menstruating people in Hawaii. The bill would allow the products to be more accessible in a sustainable way. So while we have all these organizations and I have my grants, that's allowed me to give products in place in female and gender neutral restrooms here at UH Manoa. It's not sustainable because then we'd have to keep getting these products and applying for grants every year to cover these expenses for menstruating individuals. And then after all, my time as a student is gonna come to an end, so I'll be able to apply for these further to cover the students here at East West Center. So in conclusion, I think that having these products available would make a difference because it would give access and it would be an annual thing that would help people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for testifying. Could you just repeat what your name is so we have it for the record?
Oh, my name is Christine.
Christine. Okay, thank you. Members, any questions? I have a question for Degs, please. There is a recommendation that we add signage as an amendment to what this program will do. Is that something that, do you think that would be manageable by the department?
Probably, yes.
Okay, thank you. Members, any other questions? Seeing none. Members, I have, going back to our agenda, we have some late testimony for the breast cancer, or sorry, the step therapy bill. I believe, so going back to, is it House Bill 2194?
I'm so sorry about that. I thought I was still on the agenda. So sorry. I just wanted to provide some last-minute testimony on that one measure for the step therapy bill.
Okay, so members, late testimony has come in for House Bill 2194. That's the last bill on our agenda. Ms. Espinda, we had taken up that testimony earlier.
I'm so sorry. I must have missed that part.
No. We
apologize.
did that as a courtesy to Commissioner Ito. So members, going back to House Bill 2194 relating to health insurance, this goes to the step therapy. Ms. Espinda is here to testify in her individual capacity.
As individual capacity and with some information for the members to consider. In November 2016, I was diagnosed with breast cancer stage 2B. I had 16 rounds of chemo, 3 surgeries and 16 rounds of chemo followed by radiation. And my breast cancer was ER/PR positive, HER2 negative, which allowed me to go then on a therapy called letrozole. That letrozole, I was prescribed generic medication. And largely women in this nation are prescribed generic letrozole. And those generics they were very debilitating to me. I had a lot of side reactions, side effects that, for my daughter's graduation, I had a hard time walking. I mean, it was very debilitating physically and mentally. And so I asked my oncologist, can I get on brand? And he's now deceased, but he was like, good luck, figure it out and let me know. And so I did. And I went and looked through the generics and understood that they were developed either in Israel, China, or Canada. And I went on each one of those so that I could have said, I tried it. And then I figured out how to navigate to the pharmacy benefit manager and convinced them that I had tried everything. I had exhausted everything. And I really did to try to see if I could have more positive effect with the medication. Because what I learned is the letrozole is a common ingredient. The generic is different fillers. And that's the side effects that happen in these. So it took me that navigation, those steps, to get to brand Femera. And there I have better results. So I just wanted to share that with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Espina, that's testimony in support for House Bill 2194.
I don't know if it's support. Yes, support.
Support and comments, okay. And we'll make sure that that testimony gets submitted to the committee. All right, members, any questions on that last bill? All right, we're going to recess. Decision-making will be at 11:30. Our next agenda is up at 10:15. 10:15? Yes, 10:15. So we are in recess. Good morning. Our second Health and Homelessness Committee hearing here in the Hawaii House of Representatives. Today is Wednesday, January 31st, 2024, 10:15 a.m. We are here in conference room 329. Sorry, I did not have my microphone on. For members of the audience and those on Zoom, just a little bit of housekeeping. My intention is to defer this for vote at 11:30 a.m. I've designed this agenda so that we can dive into these 4 bills quite in depth. I'm going to try to allot 15 minutes per bill so we can get in lots of questions and answers as needed, but I will be mindful of the time. We don't have any specific testifier timeline on this, but I will exercise my judgment as chair if it should proceed too long with some testifiers. So first up, we have House Bill 2793 relating to the Maui Veterans Home. Members received testimony in support, opposition, and with comments. First, in support, Department of Defense, Office of Veteran Services. If you can please come to the microphone, introduce yourself and present your testimony.
Aloha, Chair Palati, Vice Chair Takanouchi, and members of the committee. I'm Bruce Oliveira. I'm the Interim Director of the Office of Veteran Services, State of Hawaii Department of Defense. Hawaii veterans served our country and state at great personal and family costs. Now we're in need to provide for their long-term care. There are approximately 100,000 veterans in the state of Hawaii, of which 41,000 are aged 65 or older. Veterans Affairs authorized 268 beds for the Hawaii State Veterans Home. Our first state veteran home on Hawaii Island has 95 beds. The second veteran home on Oahu has 120 beds. There are currently no veteran homes to serve the 7,500 veterans on Maui, and we still have additional beds authorized for use. The benefits of the Maui State Veteran Home include creation of jobs, development of training programs in collaboration with University of Hawaii Maui College, and significant increase to Maui's long-term care bed capacity and reduction of the acute care facility wait list at Maui Memorial Medical Center. Moreover, Maui Veteran Home will bring a new source of federal revenue and will ultimately be self-sustaining operation with no annual state subsidy required. The Maui Veteran Home project will also support 4 major health services and facilities plan goals. First, focus on increasing cost-effective access to necessary healthcare services. Second, promote financial viability of the healthcare delivery system. Third, encourage optimization of services and expensive technology by ensuring that supply meets the needs and costs are reasonable. And then fourth, promote regionalization of services where appropriate. The construction of the Maui Veteran Home is currently being undertaken by our department. However, the Department of Defense does not have the medical expertise for continued operational oversight of a long-term care facility. And there is no longer a viable Maui Region Hawaii Health System Corporation state entity capable of providing oversight of the Maui State Veteran Home. Furthermore, the Oahu Region HST currently does not have the authority under Act 262 to oversee the operations of a healthcare facility in another HHC region. This proposed transfer of the Maui Veteran Home to the Oahu Regional HHSC is a critical step towards a mission for construction of the Maui Veteran Home to the state legislature in 2025. I urge you to support this proposal and invest in the long-term care of our veterans. Hawaii veterans deserve the best possible health care and services available. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony in support of House Bill 2793. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. I think you should stay close to the mic because we will have lots of questions.
I have others too.
Mr. Chu, CEO of Hawaii Health Systems Corporation, support with comments.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Edward Chu. I'm the President and Chief Executive Officer of Hawaii Health Systems Corporation. We'll stand on our written testimony supporting the intent of HB 2793 and offer some suggested language if the legislature does want this to go through. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have support from Oahu Region, HHSC.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Sean Sanada, Chief Administrative Officer for the Oahu Region. We also stand in our written testimony in support with just a few comments that I might add. I mean, the emphasis of our support for this is the Veterans Home itself. We understand that in the Maui region, there's a very high need for this facility. And our understanding is that there currently are not enough resources to support the management and operation of that facility. So to that extent, we are willing to rise up to the occasion and take that responsibility if there's no one appropriate in Maui to do that job. It's all about the facility and providing the services. And we had no intent whatsoever to try and interfere with any jurisdictional issues. We just want to be there to support the facility because it's a good thing for Maui.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please, you're going to also be up on the hot seat. We have testimony in opposition from Hawaii Government Employee Association, Mr. Randy Pereira.
Morning, Madam Chair, members. My name is Randy Pereira, Executive Director of the HGEA. For many years of my work life, I sat in one of these chairs and listened to legislators, particularly those from Maui, talk about the need for Maui to maintain independence in their health care. My background with this issue goes back far too many years. I was involved back in the day when it used to be a division of community hospitals under the Department of Health that operated our state health facilities. I sat on the task force, and at the risk of dating him, with Representative Kobayashi that created the HHSC and a subsequent task force that actually implemented the HHSC. And throughout, I can quote in particular, say, former Senator Roz Baker, who insisted, even calling me out in an open hearing once, saying, we don't want on Maui an Oahu-centric type of health care. There is something afoot here that I can't quite figure out. Maui has long sought independence in their health care. I don't question and certainly support the notion that they need a veterans facility. So please, that's not what I'm commenting about. But I do question the wisdom of having a Maui facility being represented and overseen by an Oahu entity. It flies in the face of everything that the Maui people have been telling us over the years. It flies in the face of the effort to privatize Maui Memorial, what was Maui Memorial Hospital, into now a Kaiser facility. As I said in the testimony, this doesn't pass the smell test. There is something afoot, there is a lack of transparency, and people should own up to what they're trying to do by trying to make it where Oahu would be controlling a Maui facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pereira. We have support from David Fukuzawa. And we have testimony and support from Thomas Driscoll in person.
Chair, Vice Chair, members, Thomas Driscoll, private citizen, also employee of Office of Veteran Services, stand in support of, strong support of this bill with my written testimony. Only comment I would offer is that this particular bill does not direct anybody to do anything. This bill does not request any funding of any sort. Rather, this bill creates opportunities and options for this well-deserved project to go forward. Be available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testifiers in the room? Any testifiers via Zoom? Seeing none, members, questions? Representative Martin, go ahead.
Sorry. Mr. Ferreira, please. You know, I appreciate your concern for Maui having independence, but we do have so many services in our state that are statewide just for efficiency and when we do have lack of capacity on a neighbor island to do something. So for example, our school system, you know, DOE, a lot of things. And it seems like from other testifiers, we're hearing that they need the capacity that the broader system would provide to the Maui facility. And I just wonder if that, you know, reflecting on that, if you still have the same opinion.
Yes, because for one, I question whether the Oahu region has the capacity to take on another facility, candidly. They are struggling as it is with the 2 facilities that they have here on Oahu and the 3rd proposed veterans home out in Kapolei. Second, the legislature in its wisdom has seen fit not to disband the Maui Regional Board of HHSC. It remains in existence. And if you're simply looking for oversight of the project and how this is all going to go forward, then some capacity could be built for the Maui region. So my opinion is not going to change.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Representative Takinouchi.
Hi, for Department of Defense, please. Sorry, yeah. Hi. I guess, sorry, I am not as familiar with all of the past projects and everything. Could you explain a little bit why Oahu region was selected in the first place? Or are they the only, state agency that's going to qualify to kind of step in and take over with the medical expertise? Or were there any other Maui agencies that were potentially looked at? Or how did we come to the decision that Oahu was going to be selected to do this?
I'll call Tom Driscoll up, but I will start to answer and he can finish up.
Sure.
So we did go to Maui's HHSC, but they had not met at all. They were not a viable option. They hadn't met in 3 to 4 years, and they weren't able to do this and weren't able to take it. So then that's when we came up with who is, and Oahu HHC has been working with us on the Kapolei home, and we had that relationship, and so that's why we thought it would be a better idea, because Maui was not going to come forward on this, that we just go to Oahu.
And it has to be HHSC overseeing this project?
Hi, Tom Driscoll. General is right. We entertained options on how we could proceed. As you have seen from testimony, the DOD OVS does not have the medical expertise nor the legal authority to oversee and manage a home, as General has already pointed out. When we looked at Maui, and I personally went, and numbers of us have, but I met with the CEO of the Maui Health System, I met with the COO and the whole team. I briefed the Healthcare Association of Hawaii, both acute care and long-term care, to have this very discussion with all of those individuals. And the key here that drives us to this point is that this facility is a state-owned facility and state-operated facility on state land. So we must have a state agency or entity to oversee it. Now, take DOD out of that equation. When we looked at, as General said again, the Maui board, now Ed Chu's the expert now, certainly not me, but my understanding is, just as the General said, technically, legally it still exists, but it hasn't met, the board hasn't met. It doesn't have any employees. It has no action or activity. Every employee is shifted over to Kaiser and is now a Kaiser employee. That's a whole nother discussion. But the point of our question here, who? So when we looked around, HHSC has a number of long-term care facilities. They still have 4 regions that operationalize those facilities. But right here on Oahu, we have the whole partnership that's taken place with Oahu region. And I mean, this transition that the legislature put in place, and they can reflect to it, we can reflect to it. It's a challenge, but we work great together. DOD is building it. DOD is going to furnish it. HHSC Oahu region is hiring the contract manager for it and operationalizing that. And we can do that in Maui. It could work fine. The question is, who is best to do it? I think given this point in time, now East Hawaii has a state veterans home, but that was opened in 27, and it's there in Hilo. Here we are, real time. We're doing it. It's going to work here, and we can make it work.
I think you've answered the question, Mr. Driscoll. So what you're saying is that you did a scan, and this is a state-owned facility built on state funds and will be state lands, and so you thought that HHSC was the appropriate, HHSC, Oahu region is appropriate. Okay. Other questions? No? Okay, this is a question for Mr. Oliveira. You can sit down, Mr. Driscoll. Can you tell us what the status of this Maui Veterans Home is? Mr. Driscoll just said it's state-owned facility, state-funded, state lands. So what is the plan currently for where the state is going to place the Maui Veterans Home?
We are still looking for land. We don't have the land yet. That's
So still no land.
Still no land. We talked with Maui College, where the community-based outreach center is going to be from the VA. And Maui College said they wanted to focus on that CBOC, getting it all completed. And then they'll be able to come back to the veterans home and look and see if the veterans home can fit on the same campus right next to the CBOC so they could work together. In addition to that, though, after that discussion we had with the chancellor at Maui College, we've talked to some others, and we're looking at other sites now on Maui.
What are those other sites? Mr. Oliveira, I would like you to answer the question.
Okay, it's there were just a series of emails going back and forth.
And what are those sites?
And so one site is some land that's adjacent to Halemakua. And then I can send you the other sites that were presented. I don't know them offhand.
I understand that there's 2 Halemakuas. What sites are the Halemakuas? Or can you? We're looking at our Maui resident.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry. So there are 2 Halemakua facilities on Maui that I'm aware of. I represent South Maui. So there's one in Wailuku by St. Anthony Church and School, and then there's the other in Kahului by the public school.
Okay,
Do
I
you
believe
know
this
which
is the
one it
one
would
that's
be?
closest to the Maui College. Mentioned.
I think they're both.
I'm going to have to
equidistant.
get back to you on. I can give you a whole list of everything that we're looking at right now.
The committee would like a whole list of all the sites that have been contemplated.
Sure.
Who has
you.
been? Thank you. Who has been your contact at Maui region?
Tommy Driscoll was the one that made the contact with them, so I'm going to have to refer to him.
You folks raise very serious concerns about the operations of the Maui Community Board because they should not just be in name only. They have certain duties under the transition that was supposed to occur. So it raises really concerns that that's what you're reporting. On one state agency saying another state agency is not operating at the way it should be. Did you have the conversations with the Maui Health System CEO and COO?
No, Tommy did.
Okay. Do you know if, because there has been a transition at Maui Health Systems, if it was with the newer individuals or the older? Is it with a new management team? When did these conversations happen?
Just recently.
My understanding is that Kaiser Permanente National has different kinds of partnerships with other VA homes. So was that a conversation that was had about how a state veterans home on Maui might be able to work in collaboration with Maui Health Systems?
I was not in that conversation, so Tommy could tell you.
Okay. I think these are very serious questions because if we want to make sure, as Mr. Pereira says, that Maui can control its Maui continuum of care, which flows from hospital to long-term care, as we see the partnerships that occur here on Oahu, that maybe the placement with Oahu Regional System is not the best. Maybe that's kind of going up there. Why don't I ask any further questions for Mr. Oliveira for the DOD's perspective? One last question. You're saying that so there's still no land. What is the timeline for the projection that the land and the site will be determined?
We're looking by the end of this fiscal year so that we can introduce it into the legislation next year.
So
if we don't have the land, then we won't introduce it.
Okay, so end of this fiscal year would be July 2024.
Correct.
What is the status of getting funding with the federal government? Because this is also contingent upon securing of federal funds. What is the timeline for that?
I'm going to have to refer to Tommy.
Okay. Any further questions? I will ask Mr. Driscoll. Can I ask if that question, Mr. Driscoll? What is the timeline for securing federal funds?
Yes, ma'am. The process for a state veterans home that we're now engaged in, there are a couple of thresholds. The first threshold to begin the funding process is called pre-application, and that takes place on 15 April each year. In March of 2023, our now beloved past director, Ron Hahn, submitted our pre-application for the Maui State Veterans Home. And that entails a number of different documents that speak to revenue and speak to sizing, scope, et cetera. The next step in this process is a 1 August cutoff annually. And in order to meet the 1 August cutoff, which moves you from pre-application to application, you must have several things complete. One thing is 30% design, not a problem. The big thing is certified state matching. This is a facility that would require a $35 million state match with a federal $58 million match. Those are the basic figures. We entertained requesting this match this legislative session. The TAG requested to the governor's office that this budget state match go forward. BNF reviewed that request. That request was recommended no-go by BNF to the governor. We sat down in council with the TAG, and we were concerned over land, which we don't have yet, and authority, which we're discussing here today. Those two things would need to be in place. To go ahead and request the $35 million this legislative session with those two unknowns, those two mandatory fixes still hanging, leaves the opportunity, or would leave the opportunity, for successful passing $35 million, but not having the land and the authority or the authority in place. The governor would then have to make a decision, approve it without knowing it can go forward, or not approve the $35 million. The TAG did not want to deprive other meaningful, deserving agencies that need that $35 million this year. The plan, he did not appeal the BNF no-go recommendation. The TAG did not. Instead, our plan was to work on the land, which we're doing, to present the legislation for authority, which we're doing. Hopefully we culminate both of those actions this year, and in the fall budget cycle request from TAG to the governor, the $35 million match. When that happens, 1 August of 2025, now this is the specific answer, ma'am, to your question. If we get the match, we've got the 30%, we can meet that suspense for the application. It will go into the fall of 2025. The VA will entertain our request, and if we're able to meet other requirements, and I don't want to get complicated, but there's a historic preservation issue that has to be resolved. There's an environmental assessment. If we can meet all those together, in the fall of 2025, we can see approval by the Fed to match their $58 million against our $35 million. And that would flow into the request by the Fed for funding, and it falls into a 25 or 26, possibly 27 window, depending on how much money the Fed can put forth for state veterans homes.
Okay.
So we've met those thresholds, and sorry if that's too much definition. It's a great question.
No, not too much information. You said that you didn't want to go into the state health, historic preservation, or the EA, but that is in fact two lengthy processes that could also delay this.
Yes, ma'am.
So if that has to be engaged in, and is the land adjacent to Halemakua state land?
No, ma'am.
So that takes out Halemakua land.
Well, it was presented to us. We met, General and I, General Mitsubishi and Major Lee met with Senator Hashimoto. And in our discussion with him, we mentioned, when he asked the question, where is it going to be sited? We told him we're trying to meet with the Maui College leadership and put it there. He said, if that doesn't work, consideration for county land that could be converted to state land, that can be done, near Halemakua. Now, was it, main Holly Makua subsidiary? One of the Holly Makuas. We didn't specify which one of the two, which is indeed the answer to your question, ma'am. But as an alternative, and there are other alternatives like the general alluded to.
The Maui College land, that design process, what do you know about the timeline for that? Because it sounds like what Director Oliveira said was that first Maui College needs to do their design work, and then there will be a consideration for state veterans.
Fundamentally, the VA Pacific Island healthcare system has been working over 10 years to build a new community-based outpatient clinic. We'll call it a CBOC on Maui. The current one's in the inundation zone, and it needs to be replaced. They have put forth a proposal to the University of Hawaii, Maui College, leadership, and Board of Regents to build that CBOC on campus at Maui College. And it takes a couple of acres to do that. They've specified that. That was put in about 10 weeks ago. There was a suspense of 6 weeks ago that extended. The university has asked for a second extension. Right now, we're waiting.
So what I'm hearing is that they just put in the request starting in
The VA
2024.
Pacific Island Healthcare, yes, ma'am. They've got the plan. Everything is ready to go. They just need the university's approval on placement.
And okay, so I guess what I'm asking is the university's timeline on understanding when their design is going to be done, and that then they would be able to then consider whether or not State Veterans Home fits into their plan.
Right. They're driving the timeline right now. It should have, the last suspense was 6 January, and the university asked for a third extension for Board of Regents discussion. Soon, we hope that the university will make a decision. As far as design is concerned, the CBOC concept is already in place. All they need is the university's agreement to go forward. Of course, this is university land, so it remains to be seen. Is the university going to gift it for $1 a year, or are they going to ask for market or sub-market? That's between the VA Pacific Island healthcare system and the university. Chancellor of Maui College said to us, please let us get that done, and then we'll circle back with you, Tommy General, to talk about placement of the State Veterans Home. So we're beholden to them.
So the process is going to be longer.
It could be. I hope it'll be soon. We thought it would be.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Members, any questions of Mr. Driscoll? I have questions of Mr. Sanada. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I know this is going far afield, not going far afield, because it will inform the process for State Maui Veterans Home. When did you folks begin discussions with the operator, or when did you begin discussions with assuming the partnership with the Oahu State Veterans Home?
I would say spring to summer of last year is when we issued a request for proposals for the operator. And
okay, backing up before that.
Okay.
So spring, summer 2024.
2023, sorry.
2023 RFP went out for operator. But even before that, the discussions about the siting of the lands and those types of issues that even got you to the present of RFP for an operator, how long did those discussions go?
This is focused solely on the operator, not the construction.
No, for construction, for the land discussions on the Oahu State Veterans Home.
Okay, so that dates back a very long time.
And how long ago is that?
I can't give you specific dates. Don't want to be doing this, but Mr. Driscoll probably has a better idea on that. But just to inform the committee, our involvement in the Oahu Veterans Home and even with the Maui, it's very similar because these aren't things that we actively sought out, right? And when it came,
so when did this, from your understanding of the timeline, when did the land discussions start occurring and you were pulled into it?
I believe that there were some land discussions that occurred with my predecessors in the Oahu region, and I think Mr. Chu's predecessor in HHST, well, several predecessors ago, where there was a brief discussion about using land adjacent to the Liahi Hospital campus for this project, but that did not pan out. We had discussions with the DoD. I would say 5 to 6 years ago. I'm roughly estimating right here, but we talked with leadership with OVS, sorry, and then we mentioned that the land adjacent to the Leahi campus was not our land. We did not own that, and the University of Hawaii did. And during their discussions, this is all hearsay, but during their discussions, it didn't work out to use that site. And therefore, when the project further developed, I think that the DoD, OVS, they ended up securing the site in Kapolei with HHFDC. So we weren't really involved in that aspect of it. We came in after construction had already begun, and then we helped because we agreed that once it's done, then we would be involved in the management and operations after the fact. So I can't really testify to the specific land deals and everything that was going on with respect to this. It's just that when we decided to enter the fold, it was because we were sought after for our expertise in long-term care.
So you folks, again, with conversations with DoD, began about 5 to 6 years, 5 to 6 years ago, 2017.
That sounds about right.
Okay. For the RFP for the operator, what process did you go through the RFP? What kind of process did you go through for RFP for the operator?
To the best that we, of course, the Oahu region does have a 103D exemption, right? But even with that exemption, to the extent possible, we always try and follow it. And so in this case, we did same procedures with issuing an RFP. And when we formed the committee to review and select, we had a representative from the DoD as well as within the Oahu region. And we ended up with 3 proposals, which were fully vetted, and then a selection process took place. And because it's not complete yet, I mean, with leave from the committee, I won't name any individuals, but we are in the process of finalizing that management agreement.
Are the 3 proposals, and I apologize, is the 3 proposals public, like who the 3 proponents were?
I think it will become public, if I'm not mistaken, once a contract is in place and we're set up.
When is the timeline for the contract?
We're anticipating within the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay. So we will then know who the operator is?
Yes.
Okay, now part of this understanding, right, and this is going to be similar for the expectation of any Maui State Veterans Homes that comes into the fold, wherever it comes into the fold within Hawaii State government. Your obligation is to make sure that the operating agreement, the MOU between you and the operator, does result in some benefit to the region, correct?
Absolutely. So what I want to emphasize, especially pertaining to this bill, is that the question before the Oahu Region Board and our management was, will you take on this responsibility, at the back end once construction is complete, similar to the Akaka VA home, if your decision will dictate whether it happens or not. We didn't want to be the reason that this Maui facility isn't being built, right? So if there's no one else to do it, and of course we don't want to trample on Maui's jurisdictional, benefits and their desire to control their own operations. I mean, that's the last of what we wanted to do. But if there's no one there on Maui to do it, it was more of a issue for us to say, we're not going to be the ones to prevent it from happening. If we have to get involved, we'll do it at the back end, just like we're doing with Akaka, and make it happen. But if there is a more appropriate entity on Maui, to do it, we're not opposed to that. It's just from what was.
I want to go back to my question though.
Okay.
So your role as Oahu HHSC region is when you finalize the MOU with the operator, as you look down the line 20, 30, 40 years, because we want this operation to be there 40 years from now.
Correct.
You are also, from the state point of view, from the Oahu region point of view, negotiating to ensure that you also have benefits that flow back to the region. Is that correct?
For us, the target population would be veterans, right? Gold Star families, spouses. And if they come from different islands, we don't discriminate on that.
But I'm not talking about where the people flow, but if there's any kind of monetary community benefit that also can flow to Oahu region, you are because it's your fiduciary duty as a representative of the Oahu region, you are going to make sure benefits flow back to the Oahu region. It's your fiduciary duty as a member of the Oahu region to make sure that at some point in time, the benefits flow back to the Oahu region. Is that correct?
With all due respect, it doesn't have a direct yes or no answer to that, because I can talk about the monetary anticipation, right? What our expectations are. In the event, which we do anticipate this to happen, that the veterans home ends up eventually becoming in the black, right? And there are funds that go beyond what are necessary to pay all liabilities and expenses, then the plan under that situation is for the excess, the net profit, so to speak, right, will go to pay the landowner to a certain extent, which would be HHFTC, right? So they would derive a benefit, and how they spend it, whether it's on Oahu or otherwise, is up to them. But then anything beyond that would go to the Oahu region itself.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. That's what I need to hear.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Mr. Pereira, I would like to ask a question of you. So you and I have been at this a long time, and
Yes.
I think there's only 2 members here on this panel right now who are here for the public privatization of Maui Health System. Does it surprise you to hear that there's a perception that the Maui Council is a rubber stamp?
No, I'm not totally surprised. I think the nature of the transfer of the facility on Maui from the HHSC to Kaiser pretty much empowered Kaiser to do whatever they wanted. So I don't think I don't think that the region has attempted to exercise much control.
Okay. Hearing that in this construct and framework, hearing that if Oahu is going to be managing and overseeing the MOU, and that they have to then agree with the operator to make sure that any profits, proceeds, benefits ultimately flow back to the region, how does this affect your analysis of maybe Maui should have more control and more input versus an Oahu region, or a Maui entity should have more control?
While I certainly would accept and expect the response from Mr. Sanada regarding the flow of where the patients come from, I honestly believe that the manner in which this entire issue has been handled over the last 30 or so years would suggest that control over the process of picking the developer, picking the operator, would fall upon the Maui region. That's in line with what prior legislators have opined in previous hearings over many years. And it would make sense, frankly, given the way that we have evolved in the state subsidized healthcare system that we have, that the responsibility for oversight be island situated. Same as we have the 2 regions on the Big Island, we have the Oahu region, and it may be partially defunct, but we do still have a Maui region board that is in place. And it's my opinion, at least the opinion of our organization, that board should be re-energized and resources put there so that they can oversee this process. Because I think the bottom line remains that we need the facility, but it should be properly the oversight should be properly on island.
And Mr. Pereira, I know this is probably, you're not the right person, so if this bill were to move along, I think we need to have more insights into what's happening with the board. But my understanding was that when we did do the transition, that Maui region still had individuals who were supposed to be accountable to the community.
Absolutely.
And so maybe while that process might have been lost in the transition, that does not mean that they cannot be re-energized.
Absolutely. Because as a result of this transition, Kaiser is supposed to provide a certain level of care that was expected by the legislature when this decision was made. And there should be some oversight and accountability. And if that is not happening, then presumably the legislature will have to take some action, because otherwise I think you guys have granted some pretty dramatic autonomy to the HHSC and their separate regional boards. So I don't think they answer to anybody else.
Okay. And then would it surprise you if I were, and this, because this is coming to us just really on the eve of introduction of the bills. My research has shown that Kaiser Permanente does have very robust partnerships with other VA homes in other states. So
Yes.
that there could be potentially a partnership that maybe Maui could be more better situated to understand and facilitate than Oahu region.
Well, potentially, for sure. I think the one thing that you'll do when you start doing research on Kaisers, you find that they're very slippery, because Kaiser will not admit their level of involvement in these facilities unless there's the word Kaiser, the name Kaiser on the building. They try to hide behind the claim, just like on Maui. They hide behind the claim that it's Maui Hospital, but it's Kaiser. And if it quacks like Kaiser, you ought to call it Kaiser. So, and one of the things that you will find difficult to research is, what level of involvement Kaiser may have. But our research would indicate that, yes, they do have partnerships to run such facilities across the country.
All right.
But
Thank
they
you,
may
Mr.
not be named Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. Pera. Thank you. Members, any further questions? This is a very important topic as it affects long-term care throughout the state. I would agree with some of the presenters here. Thank you, Mr. Pereira, for
Thank
your
you.
time. Thank you, members of the audience, for your time. We will devote as much time as possible to all of these bills. So next up, we have House Bill 2750 relating to clean and sober homes. We have 18 in support. I'm sorry, excuse me, no. 3 in support, 12 in opposition, 5 comments. First up, in person, comments from Hawaii State Department of Health. Director Fink or his designee. Mr. Valera, welcome.
Good morning, Chair Bellotti, Vice Chair Takanuchi, members of the committee. We're submitting our comments. We're standing by our written comments. Just wanted to emphasize that regarding clean and sober homes, there are no health services that occur at the homes. These homes are for recovering, clients who are recovering from substance use disorders, and they need a safe place to stay or like a transitional environment as part of their reintegration back into the community. That said, there are a number of, we just believe that there are a number of measures in this bill that seem to target and single out clean and sober homes, and while not mentioning that it applies to other types of homes in the community, because clean and sober homes or sober living homes, to use a less stigmatizing term, is a housing issue. It's pretty much housing. So we also defer to the Attorney General on matters of interpretation on the bill's consistency with the Fair Housing Act and the American Disabilities Act, and we're also okay with the written approval that the applicant needs from the City and County of Honolulu. So we would defer to them on how to implement that. So with that, thank you very much. Standing by for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Valera. Via Zoom, we have the Department of the Attorney General comments. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. And you're not Ms. Nakata.
I am Ms. Nakata.
Oh, you are. You are. Oh,
okay.
Sorry. Apologies.
Good morning, Chair Bellotti and members of the committee. I'm Michelle Nakata, Deputy Attorney General. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. The Department of the Attorney General has the following comments. The Federal Fair Housing Amendments Act prohibits discrimination against community-based group living homes for persons with disabilities. This bill would require mandatory registration for all clean and sober homes, a public informational meeting be held before a certificate of registration is issued to a clean and sober home, and no certificate be issued if there are more than a certain number of clean and sober homes in a certain mile radius of another clean and sober home in an affected community. These requirements are not required for any other type of homes, only clean and sober homes, and they may violate the Fair Housing Act. The courts have found that residents of a group home are often persons recovering from alcohol or substance abusers, and they've been determined under the Fair Housing Act to have a handicapped and are considered persons with disability and are therefore protected. Our written testimony goes into more details on our points. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Ms. Nakata. In person, we have comments from Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, Director Tommy Johnson or his designee. Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm a little nervous here. Good morning, Chair Bellotti, Vice Chair Takanouchi, and members of the committee. Director Tommy Johnson apologizes he is unable to attend this hearing. I am Monica Lortz, the Corrections Program Development Officer for the Reentry Coordination Office. And just to let you know that the agency stands by its comments for House Bill 2750.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have testimony in opposition by the Hawaii Disability Rights Center via Zoom.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Chair and committee members. I'm Lou Erdeshek. I'm the director of the Disability Rights Center. I saw this bill when it was introduced, and then Alan Johnson called me last week, and so I submitted my testimony, and expressing my legal opinion, which, as I read it, the other testimony that's submitted seems to pretty much exactly mirror what the Deputy Attorney General just said, that it's not that these are necessarily bad ideas in terms of informing the public about what's going on or making sure that one neighborhood doesn't bear too many types of homes. I understand that there's some concern, but it's pretty clearly illegal under federal law. You cannot just make certain kinds of homes go through an informational meeting and not other homes. You can't say only X number of clean and sober homes can be here unless it applies to all homes. So I think the bill as written is clearly going to violate federal law. That said, something led to the sponsorship of this bill, right? So I respect Representative Gates and Senator Shinobukuro introduced the Senate companion. So the approach I would say is, well, what's the problem that's going on that the bill is seeking to solve? And let's deal with that. If there are particular problems with particular homes or all homes, let's see what's going on and try to address it. But the way this bill is structured is clearly not going to stand up legally. So we're happy to help in any way. I mean, these homes serve a great purpose. I mean, they really do help a lot of people get into recovery. And contrary to certain myths that may be out there, the people that are there, I mean, if you're in a clean and sober home, you're trying to get clean and sober. You're not drinking. You got to follow the rules in the home. So it shouldn't necessarily be a horrible place to have as your neighbor, other than there may be a lot of people living there. So let's just see what the problem is and try to solve it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Erdeshek. Testimony, and please stay on for any questions. Testimony in person, opposition of Mr. Alan Johnson from Hawaii Substance Abuse Coalition.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, distinguished members. I'm Alan Johnson with the Hawaii Substance Abuse Coalition. I was involved in this 2-year task force with the AG and public safety and all the counties, and so and the Attorney General, and we saw the Supreme Court rule that they find no evidence that clean and sober people in recovery commit any more crimes than any other class of people. There are occasional issues, but there are no more crimes than what they do. Usually it's noise and parking. And so we at that time created what we thought was the most that we could do under that time, and that process was not fully implemented. So there could be more collaborative work done there between Department of Health and the county and how to deal with that. As for what this bill says is just change the word clean and sober to people in wheelchairs, people blind, or people that are deaf, and they have the same protections. As you can't ask deaf people to say you gotta be registered. You can't ask blind people to say you gotta go and make sure there's not too many people in the area in there. You can't go to wheelchair people and say, look, you gotta get a letter from the county and you gotta go to the neighborhood board to tell them that you got several people in a wheelchair moving there. Because the Supreme Court has ruled that they don't find any more issues bigger than what any other class of people. Are there issues? Yes. And also, I believe we could take a look at what could be done since the voluntary register and the collaborative work for them was not fully implemented. There was some funding there that never happened, some hiring of some staff to manage that, some agreements between Department of Health and County and how they would manage that. And for whatever reason, there were several, not all of that got implemented. So I think there are opportunities there. I can say, I don't want to speak for probation or parole, but I can say for providers, we really want them to be managed well. We want them to be community members. So we're very interested in that. And I think there was a commitment by those who referred to it that if we could identify people who have problems, if we were to find out about them, we would change our referral processes. And that's another part of what could happen too that would help make things better for them. So thank you for the
Mr.
opportunity.
Johnson.
Oh, I submitted 2 testimonies. Thank you for helping me. I made a mistake, and so there's 2 there. So
We will clarify to make sure that the.
thank you,
Yes.
Representative, especially you and your staff.
No worries, Mr. Johnson. Okay, we have testimony in opposition by Habilitat Incorporated, opposition by Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center. Remainder of our testimony is from individuals in support and opposition. Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to testify in person? If you could come to the microphone, identify yourself, and I believe we have materials that from this testifier that will be presented to the members, and it will be attached as part of your testimony in the record.
I appreciate that, honorable representatives. I'm in support of this bill with amendments. Language to be incorporated into this to be having mandated partnership and state policy mandated to equal involvement by the Hawaii State and County and City County to adopt the Hawaii Adult Residential State Hawaii State Adult Residential Care Home ARCH permit protocols and City and County conditional use permit protocols with the County Community Neighborhood Board full approvals for means of community impact study. With these operations right now that's happening on the west side, I come from Waianae, and we have about 80% of increase of homicides. And we have about 630 point and count of homelessness and 27% unsheltered on the west side of Oahu, 96792. With that said, besides the clean and sober homes, additional language to be incorporated due to the equal involvement of the state operations, also known as transitional group housing shelters, drug rehab facilities and shelters, halfway group housing, house-based shelters, etc. Because language to be incorporated for operations at least 1.5 mile distance proximity away from children's schools, ages, recreational public parks, and elderly rehab hospice facilities because of the safety proximity of this type of operations. I'm not talking about the privacy of the HIPAA law, but the proximity of the operations near to children's schools become an unsafe condition for the community itself because there's no transparency, there's no measurements of all this operation that's happening on the west side of Oahu. With our high numbers in crimes that's happening, high numbers in homelessness that's upon the beaches. We have no idea where these operations at, if they're rejected by these operations and they are ending up on our beaches. There's no measurements whatsoever. There's no transparency they brought to the neighborhood board of these operations. This is a money bucket for these operations. Locations in an unsafe proximity of children's schools. One of the references I provided called Halekamali was a shelter. A veteran stabbed another person. He suffered from PTSD. 2019 to 2022, 135 911 HPD calls was made to that address. That's part of the references that I provided. I'm not providing just theory. I'm providing hard facts. These operations. But to go further, where the Department of Health, Adult Health Department, AM HST, alcohol and drug abuse, state mental hospital is a broken system. Non-conditional use permits and not represented as a community impact study before the Waianae Neighborhood Board to be adjudicated as approval, not just be awareness, but the whole community to make a judgment on this thing of what the operations that's coming to our area that we don't know about. They're popping up like mushrooms in our area. Drug rehab facilities, not made. And they never, I have a black and white document. I couldn't provide, but you can ask me, I'll forward it to you folks. There was never came before the neighborhood board for an impact study. You know, I can go further elaborating more issues. That's why I provided facts.
Mr.
document.
Salcido,
Yes.
we have all of the information from you in
Yes.
front of us. We also have your written testimony. I need to keep moving this along,
I
but
thank you.
but you have provided a lot of information, and we'll have time for some questions.
And also, just to put this language, if an amendment, please include no grandfather, prohibit any grandfather clause that's operation. We need to know this operations that's happening in our area. I
Thank you.
appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Salcido.
Please consider it.
And we have Gina Salcido, also an individual here in person. Are there any other testifiers here in person? Are there any testifiers on Zoom? No testifier. Okay, Ms. Salcido, you're going to be the last one on this.
Aloha, I'm Gina Salcedo. I represent, I'm the voice of the Kehau residents, the Kupunas, that lives on the west side, the last of the last, at the end of Makaha. I'm very concerned, and I also represent, with the voice for the safety of our children. You know, I understand that we all have to, it's our kuleana. And I have no problem taking part of our kuleana. But when we have the wrath of everything up on our side, not by choice, but by force, please remember, Hawaii is not a sanctuary state, but it's turning Waianae into a sanctuary area. And I don't believe that, what this bill had been done. The only reason this bill was done is because we've been fighting for the West Side. We're asking for our share fare to be heard. We don't have enough HPDs. We don't have enough law enforcement, but it's a revolving door. All we asked was a measurement. We're not asking for personal information of the individual. It's information. How many were successful being to any of those facilities of care facilities, whether it's drug addiction, homeless. How hard is it to provide that? It's called, the Hawaiians, we call it pala pala pepa. We cannot keep dishing out money to all these type of facilities if they cannot provide our lawmakers what they were successful in the programs that they're doing.
Ms. Salcido, thank you. I think the committee hears loud and clear.
Yes, so please listen with your hearts what the 96792 is going through. We want just fair action and fair representation that we had never had all these years. My kupuna, the children, deserve better. My community deserve better. Our first responders deserve better. They're impacted. We need help, and we haven't been getting it all these years. That's my testimony, and I stand by with my written testimony, and I thank you all. God bless.
Thank you, Ms. Salcido. I don't see any other testifiers in the room. Any other testifiers via Zoom? Last check. None. Members, questions? Mr. Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Salcedo, please. The proposed amendments that you're mentioning to the bill, if the amendments were not included, would you still support the passage of this bill?
It will be incomplete, sir. It will be very incomplete. The people on the west side, we need to know the measurements of the equity amount that's impacting our area, because something is causing this negative impact in our area. And we have no answers to the amount, the magnitude of questions, especially the children. They're vulnerable. Our elderly kupunas in hospice. We have a recent proposal of a clean and sober home to be brought on our street, just 200 feet away from a hospice residence care home, and about 500 feet away from a preschool. Is that a good location for 20 plus young adults from 18 to 25 years old? 20 of them plus. They bought the land with money, fundings. Wow. They're looking for real estate, but they're from a Kailua entity operation that's coming into the west side.
Right.
So we're in protest on that.
So as written, you would not support the bill?
It's
As
incomplete,
written.
sir. It's incomplete. We need additional. That's only part of the pie. We need the full pie on this thing. We need a measurement, sir, and a transparency.
Thank
Any more questions? Please ask.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I have questions for Mr. Valera. Mr. Johnson has referred to the fact that there was a law passed in 2014. Has there been any significant overhaul of the clean and sober laws since 2014?
So Alan was referring to a task force that occurred before I arrived at Alcohol and Drug Abuse Division. They published a report in December of 2012, and then it led to the adoption of the HRS 321-193-.7. And around 2 years ago, there was a small amendment to that. I think with raised, I believe it was, the bill was SB 2137 2022. So there was a small amendment just saying, we need to educate the community on the need for clean and sober homes and work with the community. So that was the last amendment that I'm aware of.
Okay. That was in 2022. Are you aware of this Model Recovery Residence Certification Act? Published in February 2021.
I'm not aware, Chair.
Okay, I'd like the Department of Health to become aware of this. I viewed the complaint process in the Clean and Sober Homes Law. I think there's a lot of work that can be done in there. There is a lot of good recommendations about provisions for complaints and appeals that might be helpful to the community in this instance. I will say that is it your assessment then that the voluntary mandatory is pretty clear that a mandatory database registry would violate the Fair Housing Act?
That having a mandatory registry would, on its face, be discriminatory. So the recommendation of the task force back in 2012 was to establish a voluntary registry.
Okay. But we don't have the benefit of this model act, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Not for you, but for the next question, because I think actually this is a more legal question for Ms. Nakata. I hear loud and clear the concerns that are the basis of this bill. I hear loud and clear some of the amendments that are desired, but based on the title of this bill, which says relating to clear and sober homes, if we wanted to do an overhaul in relation to some of the amendments that have been proposed, would this be a limiting factor and this bill not be a good vehicle for broader amendments?
It may be broad enough. The title's fairly broad, so.
But if you bring in e-arches and the regulatory scheme for other and all kinds of homes, then the title would be too narrow, correct?
Yeah, and I can go back to the AG's office, but yes, this is particular to clean and sober homes.
Okay, and then the last question is, with respect to your testimony, one way to solve this is to have public informational meetings for all types of family homes under which ADAD or the DOH has authority over, correct? Because then we wouldn't be discriminating against the clean and sober homes if we had a process that applied to all family homes.
All group homes. Are you talking about all group homes?
Well, group homes, but in your testimony, you say all family homes, so I'm going to use that term. If we have a process that applies to all the kinds of regulatory homes that fall under DOH's authority, might that be potentially the correct legislative solution?
I would want to take that back to our department, and I can get you an answer on that.
Please take that back to the department, but going down this pathway again of appropriate title, because we have to be careful, right? We cannot exceed the scope of the title.
Right.
If we wanted to go down the route that you're suggesting, this title and this vehicle is too narrow.
Too narrow.
Okay, thank you. Members, any other questions?
Answer it on existing regulations for the placement of these homes. I know, is that city and county?
That would be city and county, and we'd probably have to raise that at the next hearing.
Maybe somebody working with homeless homes would actually be familiar with that through your work.
Excuse me,
Yeah, so the question is, my understanding was that now for any group home, not necessarily clean and sober homes, but any group home, there was county regulations about how close to each other they can be, like 1,000 feet or something like that distance from each other. Am I imagining that?
There is some rules like that for mental health because they're not. If you have a mental health issue, you're not protected.
Oh, okay.
But if you're substance abuse, you are protected. Let's just keep in mind too that all the Waianae homes are Waianae residents. They're returning home. They're not coming from somewhere else to Waianae. They are Waianae people who are seeking recovery, come through treatment, and now they're trying to stay clean and sober through supporting each other and developing these mechanisms. Are there problems? Are they overcrowded? That's a county issue that should be addressed, that they're overcrowded. And those complaints and referrals, that's what we set up in the bill. That process never got implemented, how to handle complaints in the process and how to utilize with the county to enforce permitting rules. And that's missing here, is what happened, so that they're not under the Department of Health. They don't manage them. They're independent providers. So if you say, you have a bill for Department of Health, they're independent operators. They're not managed by Department of Health. They're just individuals who started up a clean and sober home, so they're not under Department of Health. They have the free rights of everybody, and they know that by federal court. They do need to be some sense of management there to handle the complaint process. But keep in mind, the people in Waianae, they're causing problems, or there's too many of them, they're going home. Not coming from somewhere else.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I think you've answered the question, but can you stay there? I have one final question. Mr. Johnson, are you aware of this model law?
No, but I'm aware of some of the complaints and processes for doing that. I'll take a look at that. But we have been following on that, and that's the part that's missing, is how do we handle complaints?
Because what I would suggest is that I've looked into this, and one of the big contributors are the Oxford houses, these independent providers, and so they also have best practices that perhaps our independent operators need to abide by. And we need to have that conversation. But I think this model law is a test, and it has passed the test and muster in other states. So we really should look at this as a guideline for what we can do to ensure that our communities welcome and embrace the communities, because it's through a collaborative process where there's checks and balances that we can actually make sure that our communities are all inclusive and embracing, because we need that. We need the communities to be willing to have these kinds of homes. And I speak as a member of Makiki, where we have a lot of these facilities as well. I think all of us can say that it's spread throughout the communities. It's not just the Waianae Coast, but it's every community that has to accept the fair share of its burden to make sure we can take care of our residents. I urge you to look at this.
Yeah, we'll do. I just want to have one last comment. 80-90% of them are operating really well. 80% of them are following best practices. You got 10, 15, up to 20%. They're all new. They're springing up everywhere. They're not being managed really well as they're starting up, and I think that's a problem we all have to address.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Any other testifiers or questions? All right, seeing none, members, moving on to House Bill 2728. This is related to our whole VI project. We have first up, and I hope I said that correctly, we have our first up, Dr. Lewin from the State Health Planning Department, State Health Planning and Development Agency, and it's not Hui-Wai, it's the Hui Ho'omana Task Force. Go ahead, Dr. Lewin.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Belatti, Vice Chair Takanuchi, and Representatives Amato, Kobayashi, Martin, and Garcia. Thanks for the opportunity to testify. This task force is proposed because it's been well over a decade since Hawaii has entertained this kind of broad discussion across all the providers and the consumers of healthcare in Hawaii in a way that would reflect the challenges we face today in healthcare. Our governor recruited me to come back to state government and to run the State Health Planning and Development Agency because it's well suited from its original statutory authorities to really lead the process of how to get to universal access for high quality, equitable, affordable health care for every citizen of Hawaii, and be the first state to do that. And so this is part of the process. The State Health Planning and Development Agency is upgrading its capacity to be the oversight agency for quality, equity, access, cost effectiveness of healthcare in the state, and we look forward to that responsibility. Healthcare reform is an important issue. Hawaii has a long-standing tradition of being a leader. From the Prepaid Health Care Act, from bringing with the original plan that was developed back in the Waihee years when I was Director of Health to cover the remaining uninsured in the state, It goes back to the ways of agricultural immigrants who had health care when they came here. Nowhere else in the world did that occur. This task force is not going to solve all the problems in the world. A task force can't do that, but it can offer perspectives and priorities and really identify the unmet needs, the strengths and weaknesses, consistent with the diverse communities and cultures of Hawaii. You know, if I look at just what the strengths and weaknesses briefly, just a quick summary, you know, we do have the Prepaid Health Care Act. No other state does, to guarantee for workers and their families health coverage. That's an amazing asset for the state. We have a very proactive MedQuest program that is reaching further and further into dealing with the problems of the populations of people who lack the resources for healthcare services. We have amazingly committed community volunteers and individuals here who are committed to doing things uniquely in Hawaii. But we're part of the U.S. healthcare non-system, which has administrative complexities beyond belief almost, and is at $4.6 trillion this year, leading to, and by 2030, everyone thinks $7 trillion. That's $50,000 a year for a family of four for healthcare. It's an unsustainable situation, and we really can't expect the U.S. Congress at this point to try to solve this problem for us. It's up to states, and it's our tradition here. So we hope that this will really be an opportunity to inform the legislature, the governor, and the health sector about the best path forward for our state. I think it's very important. I will just mention that SHPTA has developed some advisory councils, one on universal access, one on Keiki Health, one on Kupuna Health, and one on health data, which is going to be critically important for this process. Those councils were actually formed around the need for the state to apply for something called the AHEAD grant from the federal government. But some of the deliberations there could be applied to this task force to give it a head start and accelerate its process there as it goes. A couple of things in the bill maybe.
Dr. Lewin, can we just, I need to wrap this up. We do have
Okay.
your testimony, and I think you've given us a lot of background.
Thank you.
10 more seconds, because I want to make sure that we
Okay.
go through this. And
Thank
just as
you.
a matter of some information to members, we're going to be voting at 11:45, so for the first agenda and the second agenda. So
Okay.
for members who are listening, 11:45.
Thank you. Just that I think that there's a little bit of question about when the final report should come in. It could come in before the end of the 2025, legislature, or it could be wait till 2026.
Okay.
We'll try to get it in there. And we also believe that the correct nursing representative is the Hawaii State Center for Nursing at UH Manoa.
Okay.
They're doing work in this area, and one of our advisory councils has one of their leaders as its chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have Commissioner Ito, or his designee, in support. Executive Office on Aging in support. Department of Human Services in support. Do we have someone from the Hawaii State Center for Nursing in support? In support, University of Hawaii, in person, Hawaii State Council on Developmental Disabilities.
Stand in support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. In support, Hawaii County Sub-Area Health Planning Council, via Zoom, HAH. Comments?
Hi, Chair. Thank you for allowing us to testify. We'll stand on our submitted comments on this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Stonewall Caucus of Democratic Party of Hawaii, in support via Zoom.
Good morning again. Michael Gloy Jr. on behalf of the Stonewall Caucus. We stand in support of this bill. We are not asking for any amendments, but we do hope this task force will take into the account the needs of the LGBTQI plus community when they're working on this task force. Mahalo.
Okay, we have Hawaii Pacific Health via Zoom. Comments from Kaiser Permanente? Zoom? Okay. Any other testifiers in the room? Members, we have numerous individuals in support. Any other testifiers on Zoom? Seeing none, members, any questions?
Bill, this is Mike Robinson. Good morning, Chair and Committee. I was standing on written testimony with comments.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. And if you can come to the...
Oh, I'm on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. That's from Commissioner Ito. Okay, thank you. Any other testifiers in the room? Any other testifiers via Zoom? Members, any questions? All right, seeing none, we're taking up the last bill, House Bill 2553. This is relating to pharmacists. We have numerous testimony in support, one in opposition. In person, we have the Department of Health.
Sarah Kemble, Disease Outbreak Control Division Chief, on behalf of Dr. Fink for the Department of Health. Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the committee members for allowing us to testify today in support of this measure. Just briefly, I wanted to highlight a couple of points. We have noted at the Department of Health over the past 5 years a drop of about 10 percentage points in vaccine coverage for routinely recommended childhood vaccinations that prevent diseases such as measles, mumps, rubella, diphtheria, tetanus, etc. We also have experienced directly through the pandemic the benefits of allowing pharmacists to step into this area, especially in parts of our state where access is a challenge, to allow people to have access to those life-saving vaccines. I also wanted to note that we identified a couple of other statutes which might end up in conflict, so we can provide some additional information on that if needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Comments in person, Board of Pharmacy?
Good morning, Chair and Committee. I'm James Gizuski of the Board of Pharmacy, Executive Officer. The board will be reviewing the official legislation tomorrow, but they have been very supportive of the expansions allowed under the PrEP Act. And like the Department of Health said, there are a couple inconsistencies with the law in relation to the ages listed.
Thank you. Support from University of Hawaii, American Pharmacists Association. In person, we have support from CVS Health. Is CVS Health here?
Good morning, Laurie Lum on behalf of CVS Health. We are in support of this bill. As it does increase access to vaccinations. As written, however, this bill is limited to those persons 3 to 17 years of age, and we are asking for your consideration in amending the bill to expand it, to authorize it 3 years of age and older to cover adults. Pharmacists, pharmacy interns, and technicians have determined their clinical ability to safely order and administer vaccinations during the COVID-19 public health emergency, and this bill will codify that allowance in state law. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. We have in support Walgreens via Zoom or here in person. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Tiffany Ajima, testifying on behalf of Walgreens. We are in support of the intent of this measure and echo many of the comments that were already made. I just want to note that there is a similar measure, HB 2147, that we prefer the language of, and the difference with that is that it does not include pharmacy techs and pharmacy interns because they aren't currently regulated in the state. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay, we have in support Retail Merchants of Hawaii via Zoom.
Aloha and good morning. I'm Tina Yamaki with the Retail Merchants of Hawaii. We stand in support of this bill, especially for the pharmacists and the pharmacy interns. Mahalo.
We have testimony in support from Molokai Drugs Incorporated.
Good morning. My name is Kimberly Mikami Svetten. I'm the president of Molokai Drugs, and we stand in support of the written testimony that was already submitted. Mahalo.
Thank you. Support from the National Community Pharmacists Association. I believe we have individual Christina Method Requilum via Zoom in support. Also via Zoom, Nicholas Ferreira and Sarah Guzman in support. Is there any other testifiers in the room who would like to testify? And then if there's any other testifiers via Zoom, if you can start to line up and indicate. Go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Bellotti, Vice Chair Takanuchi, and members of the committee. I'm Corey Sanders. I'm president of the Hawaii Pharmacists Association. So I've already submitted my testimony on behalf of HPHA, but I wanted to provide some additional comments that were included in my testimony and that I think will address some questions today. The DCCA does not currently regulate pharmacy technicians, but pharmacists are so passionate about continuing to utilize technicians to vaccinate that they're willing to take the onus of vaccination through the technicians on themselves. So it would be no additional burden to the DCCA, but the pharmacist is willing to say, hey, I'll take this technician and the administration process under my own license because that's really necessary to continue to allow the wide range of vaccinations and continue the workflow. I will play devil's advocate and say that there are other healthcare professions that are vaccinating, like medical assistants in clinics, that are also not regulated by DCCA. And so we're asking that we allow pharmacy technicians to do that as well. I do want to point out that technicians and interns are currently required to become nationally certified in immunization before vaccinating. So this is something that's tracked with the pharmacy and the pharmacist. So they're going in with hands-on training through a national certification as required by the PrEP Act, and then that will be continued in this legislation as well. I also want to point out there's a shortage of pharmacy technicians across the state, and giving them vaccination authority provides an additional growth opportunity for them to increase their salary, and hopefully that would help with pharmacy technician retention and growth opportunities. And then lastly, vaccine administration specifically allows for our community pharmacists to have an additional revenue stream, which is really important to our smaller independent pharmacies that serve medically underserved areas and rural communities. So the last thing I want to say to summarize this is that I truly think it would be a disservice to public health. This has now been a tested proof of concept through federal legislation through the past 3 years. And if we don't have a contingency plan that includes pharmacists and specifically pharmacy technicians to still continue this workflow, I think it would be not only a disservice to the public, but to a group of healthcare professionals that have proven they can do this over the course of the past 3 years. So I'll stand on my testimony. I want to thank you guys for hearing this bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Excuse me, ma'am, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name and
Yes.
then what group you're with. Is it
Corey Sanders? Yep,
Thank
Hawaii
you.
Pharmacists Association.
Thank you. Any other testifiers in the room? Any other testifiers via Zoom? First one up, Sarah Guzman.
I'm unmuted, guys. Hi, I am Sarah Guzman. I'm a local citizen testifying in support. I stand on my written submitted testimony, as well as just wanted to add a few brief comments. I've been a pharmacy technician for nearly 25 years. Over those years, I've held various roles and had different responsibilities, but none have been so valuable to my communities as administering vaccines. During the pandemic, when most were locked down, my fellow technicians and I stood up. When given the opportunity to serve our communities and help protect them, especially our Keiki and Kupuna, we raised our hands and said, train me, I'll go. We took this exciting and unique opportunity and viewed it as an honor. I'll never forget the smiles of thanks and the appreciation from those that I've immunized personally. As someone who also hires and trains fellow technicians, it's really important to me that we continue to have more paths for growth and development of our pharmacy technicians. I'd love to have more here in Hawaii view becoming a pharmacy technician as a really growing career opportunity as a true healthcare worker. And additionally, giving technicians the ability to assist with immunizations has greatly helped our pharmacy workload. As the burden to healthcare workers in general continues to grow, allowing technicians to administer vaccines has rebalanced the load within our pharmacies. It allows my pharmacists to have expanded focus on patient care and keeps our technicians invested not just in themselves and their education, but also to their community. So we really need our technicians to continue to be able to immunize.
Thank you, Mrs. Guzman. Ms. Guzman, I'm gonna speed this along for the last two Zoom testifiers. Next one up. Okay, we really need to speed this up because we need to vote and head to the floor. So if you can say your name and in support, if you stand on your written comments.
Hello, my name is Brittany Stepp. I'm a pharmacy manager for Long in downtown Hilo. My store is one of the busiest stores, it's the busiest store on the island, one of the busiest stores in Hawaii in general. And I come from Colorado, where basically it was almost a requirement that every technician be able to immunize. And being here at my store where we're doing close to 1,000 prescriptions a day, I'm unfortunately put into the position sometimes where I have to decide whether or not I'm going to be able to immunize or be able to do some of my other tasks as a pharmacist. That's a terrible choice for me to have to make because immunizations have been one of the greatest changes of our entire civilization in terms of preventative medicine. And by allowing a team of, I sometimes have 9 or 10 pharmacy technicians in there, that each of them could immunize, it allows the multiplicative effect across the entire community where we're able to give out those immunizations. And I'm not having to make those triage calls as to whether or not I want to be able to prevent Miss Smith from getting some sort of preventable disease, or do I want to go ahead and have to deal with counseling, or do I have to take a phone call, or any of these types of triage type thoughts that have to go through my head because I'm able to say, hey, I want my technician to go out and be able to give that shot, and then we can do it times 9.
Thank you. I'm going to have to interrupt you. And can we hear your testimony in support? Can we go to the third and final testifier. And please, we are short on time, so if this is in support, we have your written comments.
Yes, so this is my verbal testimony that I speak on after saying my written one. I'm at rotation right now, but it was so important for me to take the time out of that just to talk to you guys about what immunizations mean to me. I'm a current P4 student. I'm on my clinical rotations with LONGs right now. And I want to let you guys know that, as a student, part of the reason that I came into pharmacy was because I wanted to have that connection and that impact with my patients. And immunization is one of the most direct patient-facing ways that I can do that. I remember just being at LONGs here, and I had one patient come in to get her immunization. And she was a little girl and she was so nervous. And so some of the things that we had to do, I showed her the COVID vaccine. I let her see what arm she wanted it in and gave her a unicorn sticker after. And it kind of just helped with that nerves that she was feeling before to see healthcare as something that's not as scary, as something that's helpful.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the personal testimony. We hear it in support. We're going to move on. Members, are there any questions? Any other testifiers via Zoom? Seeing none, no testifiers in the room, no questions. Members, we're going to take up voting on this agenda. This is our 10:15 a.m. agenda. Members, we've heard a lot of testimony in House Bill 2793, returning to the Maui Veterans Home. I'm going to defer this for DM on Friday on our 11:30 a.m. agenda on Friday. Relating to clean and sober homes, members, House Bill 2750, based on the recommendations, we're going to strip out and change back voluntary to mandatory. We're going to do technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. We're also going to move this along so that we can continue to have the conversation about how the complaint process within the clean and sober homes can be beefed up. And I will ask that in the committee report that the next committee take up those other amendments to make sure that we have more community engagement and involvement as appropriate under the model legislation proposed. Members, and then we will also defect the date. Members, any comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, let's take the vote. Vice Chair.
Health Committee voting on HB 2750. Chair's recommendations passed with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Amato?
Aye.
Representative Iligan?
Aye.
Representative Kobayashi?
Aye.
Representative Martin?
Aye.
Representative Nishimoto?
Aye.
Representative Garcia?
Reservations.
With reservations. Chair, recommendations adopted.
Members, on House Bill 2728, we're going to defect the date on this and ask that in the next committee that more explanation be given as to what the federal grant is that the SHIP-D is applying for, as well as require reports to the 2025 and 2026 legislative session and any technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and a defective date. Members, any questions? This is House Bill 2728. No questions? Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 2728, noting Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting all members present unless otherwise noted for the rest of the vote. Any reservations or noes?
No vote.
No vote for Representative Garcia. Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you. Members, House Bill 2553 relating to pharmacists. Members, I heard the testimony requesting that this be applied to ages 3 and up. I believe it actually does already apply, but if that amendment is not there, I think it is there. We will also do any technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style, an effective, defective date, and then ask the committee, next committee, to look at the question of the pharmacist interns and whether we have the appropriate regulatory scheme to be able to allow that for that practice. Members, any comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 2553, Chair's recommendations passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes?
No vote.
No vote for Representative Garcia. All others vote aye. Chair, recommendations adopted.
Members, that concludes our 10:15 a.m. agenda, turning to our 8:30 a.m. agenda and reconvening that. Members, we had a lot of discussion on the impacts of any changes to insurance mandates. So for those reasons, I'm going to defer for DM until Friday to our 11:30 a.m. agenda, House Bill 1966, House Bill 1722, House Bill 1624, as well as House Bill 2194. Members, on House Bill 2436 relating to medical care for minors, this actually, but for some, if you have some disagreements with the types of services we're going to be expanding to, this is a measure that has no real technical changes to be made. So my recommendation is going to just to be pass this out with an effective defective date. House Bill 2436, relating to medical care for minors. Questions, comments, or concerns?
Just a quick comment, Chair. I think this is a bill, it's a very bad bill. It's a step forward in the wrong direction. Thank you.
Appreciate your disagreement, but that's where we have a fundamental disagreement. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 2436, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes?
No vote.
No vote for Representative Garcia. All others vote aye. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Members, for House Bill 2079, Chair's recommendation is to pass out with the OIP amendments, and I believe Kaiser may also have some amendments on this one. Effective defective date, technical amendments for consistency, clarity, and style. And then to add, yes, those are my recommendations. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair?
Voting on HB 2079, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes?
No vote.
No vote for Representative Garcia. All others vote aye. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Members, House Bill 2003 relating to menstrual products. Chair's recommendation is to add to this signage as another item for Department of Attorney and Department of Accounting and General Services to add to make a defective date and any technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, any questions, comments, or concerns?
Comment, Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Page 12, lines 16 through 21 says to ensure access for all menstruating people, if a covered public building has no gender-neutral restroom, the department shall provide free menstrual products in at least one men's restroom. My disagreement is men do not menstruate, so therefore it's a no vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Garcia. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Members voting on HB 2003, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments, noting the no vote of Representative Garcia. Any other reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair recommendation is adopted.
Okay, members, House Bill 2223, this is our one insurance bill that doesn't have a sunrise analysis. So Chair's recommendation is going to be to pass out this bill with the amendment proposed by Cancer Action Network, as well as to insert the one other amendment. I believe, members, this was the Kaiser Permanente amendment about medically necessary services, to put a defective date in, to leave the blank dates for the amendment proposed by Cancer Action Network, and then to pass out with a defective date. The goal, members, is that we need to situate this as a House Draft 1 so that when we go back to the introducer and ask them to do a concurrent resolution for a sunrise analysis, it will reference the HD1. Members, do you understand that process? Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 2223, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair's recommendation is adopted.
Members, that's both of our agendas. We'll see you on Friday for our 8:30 a.m. hearings. We are adjourned.